Are we on? No.
No, not yet.
So here we are. Give my son hell. I'm getting
all right. Good evening, everybody.
50 cents. I gave
Good
him
evening.
Monday, and the following Friday he's getting $10.
Hello. I'm not using the gavel. No. Do you want to use it? All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Newmarket School Board meeting for November 6th. Carly, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sounded like every classroom across the country there for a moment. All right, the mission statement. The Newmarket School District is committed to the highest standards of quality education. We ensure a safe and successful learning community. We embrace diversity and respond to the social, emotional, intellectual, and physical needs of every child. We strive to work with a broader community to ensure that students develop lifelong skills, enabling them to be contributing and productive members of society. All right, there's not much to report for the chair's report this evening. What's that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Just so we know that later on in committee reports, when I give the report for the Joint Advisory Committee, there'll be a longer conversation as we've done in the past. Okay? All right, for program, 8th grade trip to Philadelphia.
All right, let's see. Good evening. We're here tonight seeking the board's approval for our annual 8th grade trip. This year, as you said, the trip will be to Philadelphia. We're going to leave bright and early on Wednesday, May 27th, to the tune of 5 or 6 a.m., I believe.
Can I just ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt, can you state your names?
I'm
and
sorry,
what you
I'm
teach?
Stacy
That's okay.
Perkins, 8th grade social studies teacher.
Okay.
And I'm Elizabeth Francischini, 8th grade science teacher.
So we're leaving Wednesday, May 27th, and we're going to return late in the evening on May 29th. The 8th grade changed its annual trip from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia this year in response to rising costs and rising student population. As our enrollment numbers have risen, the trip to D.C. could no longer accommodate all students. Last year, the trip could only accommodate 67% of our students while maintaining an affordable price point. We believe that all students should have equal access to the class trip and as such sought an affordable alternative. After much research and discussion with the administration, we chose the Philadelphia area for our trip as it offers a broad range of cultural, historic, scientific sites that suit our curriculum while accommodating all students equally at that reasonable price. This year's trip will include visits to the National Constitution Center, Independence Hall, the Franklin Institute, the U.S. Mint, Eastern State Penitentiary, and the Reading Terminal Market. Students will gather information for use on a cross-curricular identity project which addresses 8th grade standards in all core classes. In the past, we have offered a similar range of local field trips for those students staying behind. This was because we could not include all students on the trip. Because we have made the necessary changes to ensure that all students have that equal access to the trip, our home curriculum will look very different this year. Rather than taking the local field trips, students will be directed through a series of web quests that enable them to access the information their peers are accessing while on the trip. In this way, all students will still be able to complete that same identity project. The cost per student for this trip is $470, which is slightly lower than the DC trip. As in the past, students must be passing all classes and meet all behavioral expectations in order to attend the trip. We currently have 13 students in need of scholarships and are well underway to raising those funds. Our hope is to raise enough to not only cover all scholarship requests, but also lower the price for all students. At this time, we have raised $1,000 through Loco Water Stops, $750 from an NSEP grant, and have received $820 in donations from local businesses and individuals wishing to contribute. We are currently working our annual pie sale as we speak, and will hold the Chili Chowder Challenge and the penny sale this winter as we have in previous years. Our students are very excited about the trip and are proud to be the first class that offers a spot to all eligible students. We'd like to thank you for your consideration.
That's a really good price.
Yeah.
Yeah. we're really excited.
I heard rumor you're going to be doing the Rocky Steps, is that correct?
That's correct.
Will you be taking pictures of each student and sending it to us?
They will have the option to take pictures there. We'll, I'm sure, take a group photo there, and they can certainly include that as one of the many artifacts in their
Wonderful.
identity projects if they wish.
And credit for phys ed as well.
Yes.
And the people who raise, it's all the parents that, and the children that raise the money for the scholarships.
That's correct. Yeah. We have reached out to local area businesses. We sent out letters to about 170 local businesses, I believe, and we've already well exceeded what I had expected to get back in those charitable donations.
That's really nice.
And those businesses are also offering items for donation in the penny sale for the raffle for that as well.
Nice.
It'd be nice to hear, once all of those donations come in, who gave money for those scholarships. I think it'd be really good news to hear. So we're looking for a motion to support this trip?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I move to make the motion to support the trip, 8th grade trip to Philadelphia.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck, ladies.
Thanks so much.
Great, thank you so much.
It's a shorter bus ride at least.
Yeah. All right, we're on to public comments. As a courtesy, we have a group here from Link Together Service Learning, and I'd like them to come up. I'm sure they have some homework to do. We have Grace and Ava, who will be speaking, and Sophie, who is providing moral support.
Okay. On October 15th, we received an email inviting us to participate in the Best of the Best Teens for Genes competition. This leaderboard challenge was capped at 75 schools, and starting now until February 15th, the groups participating will be competing against the top elementary, middle, high schools, and colleges in the country, collecting genes to help clothe young people experiencing homelessness. An awesome group of 53 competitors signed up for this competition, and our first update, picture and current gene count, is due on November 14th. Last year, the schools in this competition collected about 1/7 of the entire nation's drive.
We will be working with Melanie Talion, a retailer with Zolter Reality at Keller Williams Coastal Reality, who lives in Newmarket and is willing to help us make this event successful. She will be placing a bin in her office and put flyers in the mailboxes of 220 agents at her work. She will also be mentioning this event at their sales meetings. By being part of the Best competition, we are not only entered for the $10,000 grant for our school if we can beat the other hundreds of schools outside the competition, we can also get additional prizes from this competition.
The additional prizes offered to the Best of the Best competitors are, first place, $1,500 to give to a local homelessness charity and a sweet, massive trophy. Second place, $1,000 to give to a local homelessness charity and a sweet trophy. Third place, $500 to give to a local homelessness charity and a sweet trophy. This is how it works. Every 2 weeks, we will be submitting an update to Teens for Genes with our current gene count and a fun picture. The following Monday, we will be emailed the current standings along with the best picks and honorable mentions of the week.
Community members who would like to help us earn $10K for the school district can bring in their genes to Link Together in the cafeteria at Newmarket Elementary School between 3 and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. This competition is going to be a really fun way to collect as many genes as we can for kids experiencing homelessness. Starting in January, we can start dropping off genes to Air Postal. We have started brainstorming ways to let people know we need genes. So far, we have Facebook pages, written letters to our relatives, flyers through the school,
Posters around town, 2 contests, one at the elementary school and one at the junior-senior high school. The class and advisory that collects the most genes will be provided with a private in-class meal of pizza, salad, and dessert purchased from the Newmarket Food Service Department. We already have a donation of $50 to go towards this, and we will be contacting community members for more donations to cover the cost of the meal. Working on getting fraternity or sororities at UNH to help us, and we challenge every member of the school board to talk to their families and friends and bring us 10 pairs of jeans by November 29th. Thank you.
Hey,
Challenge.
thank you.
I think that's a challenge we must accept.
Are you open to questions?
Can't really Now you're my dad.
Wait until you're 13, and then you can say no.
You better not. So, actually, let me, I won't ask you a hard question, right? But let me just summarize. I want to make sure everybody got, so you're one of only 75 schools in the country this year?
53.
53. They opened it up to 75, and only 53 of us accepted the challenge.
Okay, so last year when you did this, it was open to how many? All of them?
It was the entire nation. It was the first time they did it. And this year, those that did the 75 that did the best jobs, they invited us to do a special challenge.
So you were one of the best 75 in the nation. Do you know how you ranked in New Hampshire last year?
First.
We won a pizza party.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
I only asked because I thought you would like to say that, right? Just make sure we heard that. And then I want to make sure we emphasize, Melanie, is it Talion? Talon, thank you. Realtor, Zeller Realty, reaching out to Keller Williams, and 220 agents. So you're putting a lot of boots on the ground in this regard, and so we really want to appreciate that. And then I want to make sure the community heard you say, any day, Monday to Friday, that school's in session, 3 to 6, in the cafeteria at the elementary school.
Yeah, and then
Any day,
kids-
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, and then kids can bring in them in the morning.
They can bring them into school and they can drop, but even adults that are out there watching and don't have any kids in the school, any afternoon, 3 to 6, come see us at Link Together in the cafeteria at the elementary school, and you can drop the jeans off there if you can't find another location. Okay.
Jeans of all sizes?
Yeah.
Even my size?
Yeah.
Just checking.
Sure.
Because I got plenty in my closet.
Or my smaller sizes even, is that okay?
Get rid of all those ones I'll never get into again.
That's what I said, I got a closet full. I got 2010 covered. I probably have 10 for all of you guys.
Perfect.
Can I,
So, okay, so then I heard,
Are you
Some-
getting pizza? Is this why you're pushing it?
yeah, I think I'm coming to the pizza party. Somebody said something about your first picture
Yep.
is due by the 14th of November. That's next week.
next Friday.
And what kind of picture is it supposed to be?
Really funny, because if it's really funny and fun, we win. Well, no, we don't win like the entire thing. We just win like.
There's contests within the contest.
Yeah.
Really, mini
And
prize.
we are?
So you want a goofy picture?
Sure.
And do you have any preference what kind of picture it is for this first one?
We want anybody in the school
The
board.
best picture gets another prize.
Yeah, and we want anyone in the
Every
school
week.
board. Okay, so wait, what? So we want help me explain this.
Doing
We
great.
want anyone in the school board.
We'd like our first picture to be the school board members meeting their challenge. So if any time between now and next week, we can get something together.
So we're working,
And to make it even better, you can put jeans on.
so when we get to our calendar, we're going to talk about a time and try to work with you a time. You guys will have some jeans to show that you're collecting. We'll have some jeans to show spirit, and we'll jump in the picture and be as goofy as we can be. Would that
Yeah.
work?
Yep.
Okay. We appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question.
We have a question. Oh, I wasn't the only one with questions. Hold on. Now you're really in trouble.
Do you have flyers you could send to the school board if they might want to hang them up at their place of
I
work?
think we did get one.
We will be.
You will.
If you send me a
The
flyer?
first time that they're doing this, the information hasn't come out. Chris just sent me an email today that they finally have all the stuff together. He got our business address and he'll be mailing it. Sometime next week, we'll have all the official stuff so that we can start sending things out. We have
I
until
would like one of
February.
those.
Thank you very much.
Nice job.
So should we decide on a day we all want to meet with our jeans?
Well, I think when we get to calendar, we can really make a bold statement and everyone can hear it.
Maybe we can coordinate it with our budget meeting.
Ooh,
There we go.
nice.
We don't have a budget meeting before that.
Thursday.
I think we may have to have one
Yeah,
at
we're gonna
12 after what we just said.
So, ladies, I know that you have homework to do probably. So you're more than.
I come back.
Oh. You have chores, I'm sure.
No, you want to stick around? Let her stick around.
Feel free to leave whenever you're ready. You're more than welcome to stay. All right. Any more public comments? Hi. Come on up.
I just want to add something. I'm on the board that brings together, and if somebody can't bring the jeans in, get a hold of Ree. I'm more than welcome to come pick them up.
Wonderful. Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson and members of the school board.
Hello.
I don't know if you know who I am, but I'm Dennis Abbott, lifelong resident of Newmarket, more years than I care to remember. And I will say, and give you a hint of how old I may be, I'm Newmarket High School graduate, 1958. My mother graduated from Newmarket High School in 1928, and my two daughters graduated 1987 and 1991. I was probably the least distinguished graduate of them all. It's a difficult task to stand up here after those children did such a nice job in speaking. They're very, very composed. I am also at the moment supposed to be downstairs chairing the McAllen Dam Study Committee, so I've got to run back down there. And I also could have been at a fish meeting in Portsmouth, a public hearing that I participated in tonight. But anyway, I do have a purpose of coming here tonight. In a little background, I was asked to participate in the Newmarket Common Ground group out of the blue. I don't know why they asked me, being that I don't have children in the school, but I am a resident of Newmarket, and when Glenn Dodds called me up and asked me if I would participate, I did. And you're probably aware, you've heard enough about the Common Ground group. And the real purpose of me being here tonight is to just again invite you folks to attend, like all the residents of Newmarket. I'm speaking to them primarily, that I hope as many residents as possible can find the time Saturday morning to come to the high school at 8:30 to register if you haven't registered, or show up at 9 o'clock for the beginning of the facilitated session. And the residents should know that this isn't a group that's trying to achieve an outcome. I think our purpose is hopefully to help you people, the members of the school board and the members of the town council, get through this most difficult problem that you've been working on for some time. And I do appreciate the efforts that you've made and will continue to make, and it's not an easy thing. There's surely a lot of ideas out there about what we should be doing. But the purpose of the meeting is to allow the residents to come and just talk about what they value in the school system, what they would like to see in the school system. And I think it could be beneficial. We are being facilitated by a group from the university. It's part of the Marcy Carsey Institute that they have there called New Hampshire Listens. So there are going to be a number of facilitators with groups of probably, hopefully 10 or so, going to separate classrooms, putting up a whiteboard and have a conversation about the school and what they want to see in the school, anything related to the school. So again, I urge you all, and urge the residents of Newmarket to come out Saturday morning and have a voice in what you really want to see, what you really want to be done. We're not going to solve problems. Our purpose is not to offer you solutions, but simply to offer you information that's presented by hopefully a good cross-sections of the people of Newmarket. And I might add, as a little last aside, that this was my 4th grade classroom in 1951. And I was in 4th grade on January 9th when my younger sister was born, and I remember Sister St. Norman sitting about there and telling her how happy I was that I had a new little sister. I thank you for your time.
Thank you for explaining
Are there
that.
any questions?
Yep.
I don't have the email address with me.
The weather.
Okay. I do have it. NewmarketCommonGround.org is the website, not the email.
And there people can register if they haven't already?
They can register online also.
Okay.
And I did ask, they will be having another one of those. I don't know if it's going to be as large, unfortunately. I was hoping to attend one. Unfortunately, I will be at a conference this weekend.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know that there's...
Leaving tomorrow.
I don't know that we're planning a second one. Do you know Dave is also on the...
I think at this point, it's just, the planning is just for the first one.
Right.
But also, the residents should be reminded that some of the students are going to be having a
David, I'm sorry, can you just come up to the microphone?
I was just going to say that, too. I was just going to...
It's going to be a bake sale.
Yeah,
it's going to be a bake sale. It's to raise money for the students, so that if people come between 8:30 and 9, they'll be able to buy baked items, and hopefully we'll raise some money for the students as well.
Great.
It's for project graduation.
What Dave didn't tell you, I missed the last meeting because I was on travel in Connecticut, and I was drafted to do this in my absence. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abbott.
Have a nice damn meeting.
Any other public comments? Okay.
Just a piece of information that I haven't been able to attend some of the more recent advisory committee meetings.
Can you just state your name?
Oh, pardon me.
Thank you.
I thought everybody knew me by now.
I know, but for the record.
David Spiegel, Maple Street. I haven't been able to attend some of the more recent advisory committee meetings, or I would share this, but as long as it's fresh in my mind. At the polls on Tuesday, I was able to talk with Patty Lovejoy, who was the floterial candidate, and she shared with me some of her knowledge of the Exeter school formation and how that was resolved, as well as the power sharing that was involved in that. And since one of the things that the advisory committee is doing at this point is reviewing the tuitioning option, I would encourage you maybe to invite her to your meeting to share some of that information with you. I'm trying to learn more about it from her myself. It was a lot to absorb at once, but I think it would be helpful because there are a lot of aspects of that perhaps would need to be considered if the tuitioning option proves to be viable. Excuse me. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comments?
Good evening, Ann Ellis. I just want to briefly say that I hope that you will strongly consider not cutting any staffing positions in Newmarket schools as you look at the budget process. When I look at the number that you would need to cut, the dollar amount you need to cut in order to level fund the budget, to me that's people. And I think that people and our teachers and our secretaries and our custodians and every single person that works in that school, in our schools, are our most valuable resource. And I don't think we can afford to cut a single one of them. They're pretty stretched. So when you talk about level funding, I hope that you'll seriously reconsider that if it means cutting any positions at all.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, seeing none. Moving on to approval of minutes. Minutes of October 16th.
I move acceptance of the minutes of October 16th, 2014.
Second that.
Any discussion?
I wasn't there, so
I should clarify, I'm talking about the work session.
Right. Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One abstention. Okay.
I move acceptance of the minutes of October 16th, regular meeting.
Second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
And one abstention.
Thank you. All right, minutes of October 23rd.
I move to accept the minutes of October 23rd, 2014, which was only for the purpose of budget, right? It's okay.
Yeah, it was just a visit.
Just a
discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move acceptance of the non-public minutes of October 23rd, 2014.
I second that.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, superintendent's report.
Yes. If possible, I'd like to have Carly report as part of my
Sure.
chance. I know she has, that's one for you.
Oh.
And one for Christine. But if Carly usually makes a report, and I thought, she's also a very good student, and I don't want her to interfere with her academics, so if you don't mind, Carly, can you squeeze in now? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So tonight, right now actually, the National Honor Society is hosting a game show night. They're playing games like Family Feud and like How Well Do You Know Your Best Friend. They have various prizes, so like gift cards donated from local businesses as prizes. The first junior high dance of the year is tomorrow from 7 to 9. Talent night is next Friday, November 14th, starting at 7 o'clock. The freshman class is holding a fundraiser. They are selling Monarchs tickets. They're lower level seats for upper level prices. Trick or canning, which happened during the hours of trick or treat on the 30th, went very well. We, NHS, Student Council, and SALT collected over 1,300 cans.
Wow. And had to carry them.
Yeah, we had to bring them
Serious.
upstairs. But it's for a good cause, so. The first improv show of the year was last Friday. It was very well attended. I had a great time. Everyone I talked to had a great time. Boys soccer just finished. They're 13-3-2. Girls soccer finished also. They're 14-4. Golf is also finished. They're 9-17. And tryouts for junior high basketball will be held on Monday.
I'd like to say that the boys made it to playoffs, and they had a great game. They played Saturday in the pouring rain, freezing, and they played such a good game, and I'm so proud of them. The girls played on Monday, and it was a great game. They lost with PKs, penalty kicks, and again, such a great game. I cried when they lost. Good kids. And the other thing I want to say is that trick or canning, everybody's so polite. The children that come to the door are so polite, and it's nice to give back to the community. They gave all the cans to the Newmarket food pantry.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. That's it.
No one ever ventures down the driveway.
The first part of my report tonight is a little bit of a PowerPoint. It's not on the agenda. Am I going to screw you guys up?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So you don't have to turn.
We'll
just wait a minute.
Technical difficulties. We're going to see that one.
That's what we're doing.
Do you want to sit on it?
That's the first page. Thank you very much.
After that,
Chair asked me to, this was during the, I'm standing here somewhere, I apologize. Let me go stand over here. I shared something like this on paper, chart paper, and everybody laughed at me, so
We might
get
have
with
made
it,
fun.
Mike.
That was
I think
because
the
the
answer
easel.
was-
The easel kept falling.
Anyways, can we go back? A long time ago, and Pat put these in different sizes, but because of our conversation about quality, an architect said to me that when we were talking about doing buildings, and I've done a few, that there are three parts to a building project triangle. One is the cost, and we put down borrowing capacity here. What is the building going to cost? The second one is size, how big is the building going to be? And the third one being quality. Example of quality is, gym floors with 3/4-inch hardwood versus 3/8-inch hardwood, or roofing shingles or material that is 20-year life, 30-year life, and so forth and so on, the quality of the fixtures and so on. But the point he made was that the owner, in this case the town of Newmarket, represented by the board, can have 2 points to the triangle. They can say how much we're going to spend, they can say how big the building's going to be. The architect can then say quality. And it always goes back to the first bond issue that before I was involved with, was in a small little community, and it was a metal building with rectangular classrooms, and the cost was going to be $250,000, and the voters turned it down So the team came back the next year, and I was teaching in the district, or 2 years later, and they came back the next year, the same project, masonry building, bricks outside, no metal stuff. It was twice the money, and they passed it. So in that community, quality was important because they wanted something that would last. Now I'm talking quite a while ago. So I understand that we want all 3 points, but there's some sort of give and take in the process of a construction, and people have to make some choices, and we'll come back to that, the bottom 2 mostly. So if we could go on. In recent years, we have had 4 votes for bonds in Newmarket, none of which have been approved. We were doing some land, possibly the purchase of Rockingham Country Club down in that area. We had a new school vote in 2006, which failed. The 60% represents the approval rate that you need for the bond to be approved by law under Senate Bill 2. The yes votes would have needed to be where it says 60% instead of 1,070, would have needed to have been 1,723. And then the new school, 1,725. Land, again, in 2008. And finally, the most recent vote for a new school, and we would have needed 1,906 votes, and we got 1,571 votes. Yeah. For the record, the last time that Newmarket approved a bond was for a new elementary school and for a new junior, senior high school gymnasium and locker rooms. So that was the last time. All that debt has been retired since 2007. We do not have any money in the budget for principal or interest on outstanding bonds. And if you want to count the years, that was 27 years ago that bond was approved. In this conversation and in the conversation coming at the joint advisory, the bond that failed in 2014 was all about the high school. There is, I would say, a pretty strong conversation that this bond, or this study, if you will, needs to look at both the high school, the middle school, the junior high school, the elementary school. May need to look at some energy conservation, that's on the list. Looking at development or so forth, the Carpenter property. And frankly, one of the other things that was discussed and not completed was the site at the elementary school and whether that site should be expanded. So I think that's what we're doing. I think the second line in there is capital costs will happen, age base or use base. I guess the question is, how many more years do we expect to get out of a 27-year-old boiler, or a 27-year-old floor surface, a 27-year-old flooring in the cafeteria? All of those kinds of things do require rehabilitation, and we should expect that going forward. So I've kind of outlined the facilities plan for you. I talked about the junior, senior high school, talking about the elementary school, the land on South Main, the elementary site and land, and that was discussed, and I don't really know the details of that. And some topic of energy savings, insulation, lighting, heating, and so forth. One of the data points that I thought was interesting, that I thought people should make sure that we hear, that we bring it to their attention. We hear a lot of conversation about the four wings at the high school, the senior high school. The original portion was built in 1925. According to the architects, that building houses 18,510 square feet and represents 22% of the total building. The 53 building was the old gym, the area where the music room is and where the stage is and where the library is and where the two science areas are. That was, and maybe a little bit more than I'm missing, connecting into the 25 building. That was built in 1953 and represents 13,790 square feet. In 1965, the high school had the largest addition. It's a metal structured building with brick and masonry. It houses 36,300 square feet, starts at the 25 building and goes to the parking lot, 2 levels, cafeteria, and like. And finally, the last piece of work done in 1987, which is the new gym and the locker rooms of 15,670 square feet. I like to say that 61% of the building is, if you add 65 and 87, is the newer portion of the building. I would also like to say, and we could argue about the lighting and so forth in both the library and the 2 science rooms, but those are pretty high functioning spaces from a square footage area and fairly well renovated. With, if you go into the library, you'll see some metal concrete piers, and you'll see a bunch of them if you look for them. So I think that's pretty well engineered, as well as the fact that it's holding up a concrete floor on the 2nd level. And all of that was part of the 53 gymnasium. We have some notes that we brought to people's attention. We're working on that. The advisors are concerned about some structural. The board will be taking up that conversation later tonight. I mentioned the significant renovation in the 53. I've talked with the state about the standard classrooms in the 65 building. They're 840 square feet. I was advised that the state doesn't have feels that 840 is relatively close to that, and they would be acceptable. I do think that means we can't put, with 900, they talk about putting 30 kids in a classroom. Well, we probably can't put 30 in, but we probably can put 26 and 27. And the 87 building, we're not expecting any reason to believe that that would require much updating. In the search of data to guide us, I found 3 projects that have been approved, and these are communities that have approved bond without building aid. And we've all heard about building aid. In the old days, when building aid existed, Newmarket would qualify for about 30%, because it's a single school district of building aid, so 30% of the cost. And it's not an upfront number, so on some levels in Newmarket, it isn't as big a deal as it is in other districts that qualify for 50 or 55%. Because the way that 30% came back to you, it was 30% of the principal payment portion of your debt each year that you floated debt. So it wasn't, just a point making, it wasn't upfront 30% on the money. So Claremont approved bond for $18 million, and it represented 33.94% of their debt capacity. And the line above it, you'll see Newmarket. Newmarket's debt limit, which is 7% of $711,970,612. We would have used, until last week, something closer to 740. You probably have heard that our assessed valuation in the community has declined through the reassessment process by that amount. And so the limit would have been 49. Salem has passed a bond for $74 million, which represented 28.83%. The Regional School District of Mascoma, which is located in Enfield and Canaan, close to Lebanon, and 3 small towns, I believe they are Grafton, Orange, and Dorchester, passed a bond for $21 million, and it represented 28.77. I gave you the percentages on the bond that we presented before. The $45 million on our new debt or assessed valuation would have been 92.24% of the debt limit, and I just worked backwards at 35%, and I took 35% of the 49, and that would generate $17,419,000. There's nothing magic there with the 35% or the 92.24%. I guess the reason for showing it is that it's meant simply as a comparison. We're a school district talking about a building project without building aid. That's new, it's been going on for 3 or 4 years, and we brought that up.
Do we know what Claremont, Salem, and Mascoma did? Do we know what those projects entailed? Like, what did they do with it?
Claremont is renovating an old high school. Mascoma is renovating their regional high school, which was built in the 60s when the 5 towns came together and found a regional district. And Salem, I think, is 2 or 3 buildings. Salem might be the lower level buildings, but I'm not sure about that.
Basically, all renovations.
I can't say that. Claremont and Mascoma is, Salem might be building new, but I don't know that.
But I'd like to point out it's responsible bonding. I think that's the point that this slide shows us, is being responsible with bonding.
Well, it certainly shows us that we're not comparing to people that have passed it.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and at that 92%, 0.24, it's probably no wonder why it didn't pass. I'm just stating that for the record.
And 49% people voted for it to pass, so you also have to remember that.
But if we saw those numbers, and we were able to understand it, at least for me.
It's hard to say because there are people who are tired of talking about it. Listen, I think numbers speak, but at the same time, people voted yes because they're tired.
Oh, I agree.
So the whole point is, instead of going back to that number, let's move forward.
Well, that's the purpose of it. See, this is where we are. This is what we have as options. This is reaching out and comparing district by district, and that's what we're doing now.
Don't
we're
slant,
moving
just
forward.
remember, there was 4950. Let's focus on those numbers. This community is looking for an answer, so that's what we should focus on. Not be positive. Let's not be negative.
Oh, I don't think it's negative at all. I just think seeing those numbers up there, I think that paints a very clear picture of what that really meant for this town. That's the reality.
You can't say reality.
Can you not put it out? I'm sorry, sir. Public comments are, excuse me. Public comments will come at the end. Thank you. Excuse me. Public comments will come at the end.
Thank you. This chart, if you remember, when we began at the beginning, we had 3 points to the triangle. We had quality, size, and cost. I really felt it was important, and the conversation is not over relative to our enrollment projections. And you know, in trying to get a look at big numbers for big projects, the formula here is the number of students times the number of square feet per student. Now, the 160 square foot per student number comes from the state rules when building aid existed and you wanted to qualify building aid for your project. Early on, I said to the board, I thought we should apply to building aid. Not expecting it, recognizing that we're not going to get it. They might send back the paper, but somehow documenting the fact that we're building a building that if building aid existed would be there. We don't know what will happen to those that built buildings while there was no building aid, but I think there's some reason to believe we should stick out our hand. And I think we should stick it out just as far as it'll go. So that's a state requirement. Also in the regs, you'll find a utilization factor, and it says that you can have 160 square feet per kid, but you can have a utilization rate of 85%, which means that you're building a building for X number of students, and the classrooms that you build, you'll use them at least 85% of the time, but not 100%. So we're estimating a population in Newmarket over the next 10 years by only looking at the current population move forward, somewhere at around 550, 560, and if you divide that by 0.85, you come out to like 647. So we tried to keep it simple. So we're not expecting 650 kids based on the kids we currently have. We're expecting something less than that. But we would want to size the building for 650 kids at 100% utilization.
This is just the high school, right, Mike? This is just
High school, middle school, the whole building. The whole building, Matt. Thank you for correcting. We can use 160 for both since they're in the whole building. So if you multiply the 160 times the 650, you come out with a total square footage of 140 that's allowable. The existing square footage is 84,000. That would have 19,830 square feet. There was discussion at the meeting the other night that it was $195 a square foot was the state number. It's a 4-year-old number. I would like to estimate a little over instead of a little under, and that cost would be just under $5 million, $4,957,000 for the new space. The new space only. It doesn't include some of all the work in the 2012 Harriman report, which talked about the renovations needed at the high school, the mechanical, lighting. They've got a 2-page list in their executive summary of some of the renovation needs, which I don't think are all inclusive, but it's a start. In comparison to that, the new building, and I thought it was important, is to tell people because it was sized differently. And I used the range of 180 to 190 square feet. I guess that equal sign should be a dash. I apologize for that. Because I wasn't exactly sure how to deal with the new building and the fact in the last plan that that the gym and some of the space in the existing building would currently be used. So I don't want to get too hung up on those numbers. I just want to share that the numbers on square footage are different, and that's some reasons why. So that's the state. Am I out of slides? The last thing is we talked about capacity in the cost. We also talked the other night about some cost to taxpayers. 4.5% interest on 10 million is very high in the bond market. Probably, I would expect it to be under 3.5 in Newmarket. Maybe those numbers should be adjusted, but as a starting point, The reason for using 10 million is that if you want to know what 20 million is, you can just simply double these numbers. It's a factor of 2 to 1. And if you use 10 million, you can divide 10 million in whatever number you like, and you can do your own math. And that's the only reason for the 10 million. You can do your own math. If you like 45 million, it would be 4.4 times what's up there in those bottom lines, what it's going to cost to the taxpayer.
And that monthly payment the yearly payment that you have up there, that's not going to adjust. I think last year the last time they said that, oh, this will adjust because we're going to pay some of this down, and that's just one, just on top.
Well, the bond bank uses a half payment the first year, and I don't like that. I like putting out 20 payments alike, myself personally, so that you don't feel like you're getting hit twice.
Okay.
But that's 20 equal payments.
Okay.
I've talked with the committee, and at some point, if we get that far, there are two basic kinds of debt schedules. There's something called level principal and something called level payment. Level principal means that if you do 10 million, you're going to pay off $500,000 of debt every year. And if you use level, but your payment each year will go down. It declines. Level payment is like your home mortgage where you pay the same amount every year. There's 2 reasons or 3 reasons why I think the level principal is important. One is you pay the principal down faster so that after 10 years, which I think we can be pretty reasonably comfortable with 10 years because the kids are born and how it's going to change will be based on growth. You paid that down, you could do something else. You're paying more debt when the building's brand new. So you should have less maintenance in those first few years and less cost. And to the taxpayer, the total payment of principal and interest is less in level principal by paying the principal down earlier. So those are some of the advantage I hear. The level payment, you're paying one cost the same, and it's lower in the first few years than it is. But, that's a decision to be made later. I think the important piece here is to know that there are two base kinds. Oh, we're done. No, Pat is going to, we're going to bring Pat up under my report.
Is it a PowerPoint then? It is, but I have 2 parts to my presentation. They probably want me to talk first.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm here, no? All right, then. Yeah, it's going to be here. Yes. All right, we'll be
So in
ready.
case you didn't hear, we're going to move Pat Valentine, who's already spent a long day in the district. She's going to be moved up to the superintendent's report.
Thank you for that consideration. Those of you at home, thank you for listening tonight. I am Patricia Ballantyne. I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment in the school district. The board has asked me to speak to 2 things that I can globally think of tonight. The first was a progress check-in on where we were with putting mapping together for parents, communities, to see where it's going. That's also part of the new website construction as well, so I have not been updated on how and where that's going. We have started at the junior-senior high school. The administration there has started their staff members to work on a syllabus, which is a description, overall description of a course with expectations, field trips, speakers, projects, those kinds of things that would be involved specifically for that course. Those are due by the end of the year, because we have some teachers that have more than one course. And then the other piece that we're looking at is their mapping piece. We're in a little bit of a slow piece for that. If you recall, we've had a little bit of turnover in the teacher piece up at the junior senior high school. Chris reminded me, I think it's something like 19 out of 52 teachers in the last 2 years have come new to the district. Some of them are brand new. So, the mapping piece for them is brand new, as well as survival till Friday.
And you, by mapping, are you talking about the Performance Plus on the DOE?
Right.
Okay.
That's what we're currently using.
Yeah.
Now, we have a math department that has been working really hard to see if we can transpose it into a Google Doc, which is one of the goals of the district, is to use Google Docs as much as we can. And they're comfortable with it, but the people who've used the Performance Pathways piece, which is known as Curriculum Connector for my area, is a little harder for people to transpose back into Google Docs. So everyone's been very patient to try to see how we can work that out. Right now, if you're brand new to the district, we have you working on the Curriculum Connector piece, because that's the piece that has all of our standards in it, and we have the new standards, Common Core standards are in there. And then if you're in a department such as art, you have Common Core and your national standards. Phys Ed has national standards. Social Studies doesn't have state standards. They have national standards. I don't know why. Maybe they just... Science has Next Generation Science that we've started using here. It hasn't been fully adopted by the state, but I think we're very happy with the progress we've made in doing that. It kind of echoes... The Next Generation Science standards kind of echo the Common Core, because they ask you to integrate writing, reading, several methodologies that are similar to where they've asked us to work with the college career Common Core piece. So it's a progress piece. Everything is taking time. You also asked me to do Smarter Balanced with you this evening. And we're hoping that works.
Remember, we wanted her to do a couple of test questions.
Well, it was interesting. At the junior senior high school, we had a group of teachers try the practice test and questions at the October, I believe, curriculum meeting. And in speaking to other districts that have tried this test, because they did let districts do the practice piece, they were extremely frustrated that they didn't get scores back. So the teachers sat down, and I didn't give them a hint that they weren't going to get a score back at the end of the day. They were not happy about that. But we've been in talks with different teacher groups. Mr. Pine, who's the elementary school teacher, worked in a district previous to ours where they did do the practice test, and he's been very helpful in guiding us as to concerns, things to look for. I'm meeting monthly with the 2 computer teachers and keeping Jason updated as to certain skills that might be necessary for our students to have. We've adjusted, the browsers, which is how the test will be uploaded for us. So I think we're in good shape. We just got an update this afternoon from the State Department of Ed telling us what our testing window will be. And it will be from March to June. June 5th, I believe, is the last time. And they're going to test the students in groups. Grades 4 and 5 are together, and they have a 5-week window. Grades 6, 7, and 6 and 7 are together, then 8 and 11 are together for some odd reason. But everybody has 5 to 6 weeks of a window, and makeups will be given during the time your grade level will be taking the test. Initially, they were going to wait all the way to the very end of the testing window and then give the makeups. So those students would have an additional 9 weeks of work before they got to that piece. So they did consider that. We also have the option of doing the paper and pencil test. It's an interesting discussion, but after talking to Jason and Sean Pine and the teachers, I think we're pretty comfortable with trying the computer piece at first, because we have to see how it works. And the data would be affected, I believe, if we did it paper and pencil, then the next year say, okay, we're ready to go, we can do this piece. We need to know how it's working for us as soon as we can, because we have to make adjustments going down the line. So I'm pretty excited about that piece. It'll be an interesting. Starting in January, we'll start again with teachers looking at performance tasks, which are a group of tasks that will be tested on content using technology, writing, listening, working collaboratively, and coming up with an answer to a problem. And that's the way most of this assessment is. You have a performance task, and then you have the regular test that has, 3 or 4 questions that are a simple one-word answer, or you might have to write, or you might have to look, take some notes, and then write again. So it's a complex test, and it'll take some time. And it's new. It's brand new. We will have, a little bit of implementation dip, I'm sure. But that's the way we're going forward. Would you like to see the questions?
Sure.
All right, let's see if this works. You're going to have to move again, yes. All right. Yeah. And you can see over my head, that's probably why they let me do this. There you go. Select grade. Should we go with 4th grade?
Start first.
He's smarter than a
What's
5th
that?
grader.
You're smarter than a 5th grader.
Oh, boy.
You don't have to shout out the answers in case you...
People in the audience, you could definitely
Help us
shout
out
out
here.
these answers.
Let me open Google.
All right. All right, do you want to do math or English language arts first?
Oh, do math first.
Okay.
Do math first, so we learn the...
Get your calculator. Is this yours?
Is this your test? Okay, this is always the part that, let's look at the top of the test. For those of you that are in back probably can't see it as well, but there is a toolbar at the top of the test page when it comes up on your computer. And what our computer teachers have done is taken a look at this, put it up on the smartboard or the whiteboard in a computer class, and have gone over what it looks like. They've practiced with it, which has been really kind of fun. The other part of this test that kind of gave the staff a little, there was no skipping the questions. You have to do all the questions.
Oh, so the practice of skipping and then going back.
You can highlight it, and then, but at the end of the test, it brings it back up that you didn't answer it.
Oh.
So you can't go back and answer it.
You can go back. You can see the button. You can go, as long as you're on this section of the test, you can go back. But if you keep going forward and you skipped one, it doesn't let you do that.
It goes right back to
So
that
you can't
question.
do all the easy ones first.
Oh.
No, those days are over.
Those are test-taking strategies.
They are, and and it's
sad.
and that's a change. You all those strategies that we've taught students when you go to the technology piece change. They do have an introduction as to what the tools are. Something different is, there are drop-down menus for the students to pick up on. The other part not through us, but we talked about was there are opportunities in a question you have to give all of the right answers. There isn't just one answer. And I think many of our students look for the one right answer, then go on to the next piece. That's not happening. Okay, we're going to test now. We're going to begin the test. I won't do all of, there's many questions, so I won't do all of them with you.
Does it at least tell you if you got it correct or not?
No. Okay. Tanya ran 400 meters on Tuesday. She ran 800 meters on Wednesday. What is the total number of meters Tanya ran on these 2 days? Enter your answer in the response box. Okay?
Do you know the answer?
Do I?
So you can't go to the keyboard, you can't type 1, 2, 3, 4, you gotta click on the numbers.
Yeah.
That'll make the test go real quick.
Yeah.
Are you being sarcastic?
Yes, being sarcastic,
I was
yeah.
because I'm thinking, I know that my kids can use.
Select the statement that explains how the values of the numbers 420 and 4,200 are different. So you have to read, the other skill that we're practicing with them is read everything. Read everything twice. And the difference when we take this on the computer is when we take assessments in the classroom on paper and pencil, we've taught children how to highlight, underline. So we're there. Oh, would you like to know the answer? Would you like to try an answer? I'm going with C, you know.
That's okay, come on. I'm just going to say.
Figure A, okay, has 4/12 of its whole shaded. Enter another fraction equal to 4/12.
Yes.
What did he say?
2/6, 1/3.
I have to figure out how to, well,
No,
that's,
the box down below, I think in the bottom right.
yeah,
is
the
way
bottom
up.
one. I have
All
to,
right, now you gotta learn how to erase.
Oh, no, she got it.
She didn't get it, she got 26 over
I got
9.
26, I didn't use the fraction box.
So 2 and then the fraction.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, so you gotta,
We got 6 weeks for every 2 grade levels.
go ahead, hit 6 now. You see, it's not gonna work, right? Now you
No,
gotta.
it's not gonna work, so you have to go back.
Gotta go back, so you gotta know how to delete.
Can I ask, is this, each section of this test, is it 3 hours they have? Have they changed the time?
They've kind of opened the window, they've given us 90 minutes as a, you know how a guideline, like with NWA, you get a guideline of time, but there are gonna be students, especially first time around, we're gonna have to have some extra time. That's why we're hoping to start as soon as we can in March, because we want to give them enough time.
So,
Go
so
ahead.
kick out, I mean, so you're starting to see what I was looking for.
Yes.
I mean, and we've talked about a little bit. There's a whole range of technology skills that, let's face it, most of our kids are gonna do this easier than
Then I
we
am,
might.
yes.
And yet, not all of our kids will. And depending on what grade you're talking about, this can and will impact the results. What you just did with the 26, I mean, it's not gonna take, you can always put the wrong answer down on the test. It's gonna be a lot easier now. Because if you're not really paying attention, it would have been easy enough for her to do 26 over nothing and move on. And she's not gonna get credit for that. Now, you're in 4th grade math, and I don't remember where we'd have to go to get 6, 7, maybe it was 6 or 7, but one of the things that I was caught with was having to grab shapes maybe, or something
Yes,
and drag
yeah.
and drop. Is that,
Yes.
any chance we'll see that here? Is that,
Not, well, I don't.
maybe not at that grade level, but
We might have to answer a lot
there's drag and drop stuff too. I mean,
This is bringing back terror of geometry.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, the other part of this is I can flag it.
Which is like hitting the light above me in the, in the airplane.
No, this is, is this help?
No lifelines.
I need a
Matching
I need a
item
stewardess,
tutorial, you
please.
get a tutorial.
Yes,
All right. So here, they're gonna help us out. I'm going to show you how to take this part of the test.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, to begin, read the prompt and follow the instructions on the screen.
We probably paid Khan Academy $1 million for this.
They also have earphones. And then complete the test.
Jason, this is slow. You're going faster, I hope, in the elementary, right?
Well, in terms of speed and how it presents,
Yes.
you also want to make sure they can read it.
Yeah, they have to read it.
And think about how to answer it. You know, I'd rather them take, I'm just not hitting any, oh, they're doing it for me, I forgot. They know what they're doing.
I'm getting the right answer. How am I doing?
How did I do that? And I wasn't even paying attention today.
So they've got video help. That's good.
Yes, they do have video help, and what they can do is save all the ones that they're unsure of, and at the end of the test, go slowly back and take a tutorial on every single one if they need to.
Can I ask, how does this report at the end? Does it show for the student, you know, like if we look at kneecap and NEWA, it breaks it down into the specific skills?
Yes.
Does this break it down into that as well, and when they have the little flag? So the teacher...
It won't show, it will show you how many you asked for. I'm not sure in the results because we didn't get results. If they're going to show us by standards.
Yeah.
And by how much, you know, of the tutorial pieces you need to have, which for me would be very indicative, you know, of how much time that child really had to spend doing that test. Now, this is an adaptive test. So depending on how you answer the first 8 questions, just like NEWA, you're either going to go up or you might just stay at that same level. And I'm not sure, I didn't look at the data correctly to interpret how many questions you missed before you started to go to an easier portion.
Does this give Lexile ranges?
No, NEWA does.
But this, does this?
This will, yes, at the very end, but we're not in math. So,
Can
Can I
don't
what?
wanna I mean, for me, that's enough math. I'd love to see, before they get a question we all can't answer, how about language arts? Like this one.
Mary Jane's
Ding,
ready.
ding, 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 ding.
Can I go back to, oh, hold on, leave this page. I don't know if I can do that.
Again, we're all laughing. The kids are going to be able to.
Technology for the students, you have to remember, this is their world.
Right.
We've worked on drop-down menus, highlighting. One of the things that I found confusing, could be just me, I don't know, was you saw the number pad that we could add with. What did that look like to you first? Calculator. That's not what the calculator looks like. So we've had to show them pictorial differences.
Right, the calculator's one's the bottom left-hand corner, not the top left-hand corner.
So it's, would you like to try one more?
So they're using a phone is what they're using. And
And
that's
not
a
every
phone-
math
it's a
question has a calculator.
phone pad, not a,
Oh, that's really clever.
I don't know if it's clever. It depends on whether
We'll
your
find
third
out.
graders spending all their time texting with their thumbs or.
You must select a grade.
using a
Okay, Pat,
calculator.
come on.
Texting.
But that was
You want me
an
to go to
assumption.
third, Mary
Someone
Jane?
made the assumption when they
We're
brought
going
the
to
test.
third.
If you're doing anything other than math, you're gonna go to third.
It's gonna take a while.
It will.
Okay, and now we're going to go to reading in third grade. Okay. Select. Uh-oh, is this your test? Yes. Click on the sound. This is a very nice sound. Again, they show you all the navigation pieces. You can even, for example, I don't picture third graders doing this, but you see where it says comment button? If you're in the older grades and you have a comment about the question, you can write it in. I'm not sure. We'll see how that works. They may eliminate that the next
That
time.
sounded like Dr. Martin would be putting something clever on the comment button.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. Read the passage. We had to remind students of that word, passage. It's not read the story. It's read the passage. Then answer the questions. So they're going to read. Slow motion here. Okay, and then you're going to read the sentences over on the right-hand side and the directions that follow. And you will notice, for example, they have highlighted in bold, click the 2 details that best support this conclusion. So you have to highlight. This was, only because my browser isn't doing this. Whatever you decide, and then you, but you have to do 2. Question has 2 parts. Which sentence best describes, that's an old kind of question, the lesson of the passage. Lesson of the passage is a new kind of phraseology as well. Part B, which sentence from the passage best supports your answer in Part A? So not only do you have to give your answer, but then you have to support it. So if you pick one of those, but you don't know why you picked it, you can't finish the question. And then 3, I'm not sure, I did this the other day, but you have to arrange the events from the passage in the order in which they happen. Now, in the previous days, when I was back in the classroom, you would just number them in order. In the little Sally, Dick, and Jane workbook, you just numbered them in order. We're not there anymore. We're just going to drag and, all right, I didn't read the story, so it's going to be really hard for me to do this, but,
Just pick them up, move them around, any way you like.
Wow.
See?
So you just move those around, and then you move. Read the sentence from the passage. A jumble of sticks and grass stuck out from the middle of the wreath. So of course you're going to have to go back to the story, read, and get context clues. And what does the word jumble most likely mean? Okay, we're going with a mess. Final answer? Call a lifeline. And then, this was what grade?
Third.
What inference can be made about the author's message about animals? Include information from the passage to support your answer.
Wow.
So now you're going to have to type in.
And so they would flag it, and the teacher would come over and tell them what it meant.
Well,
Do you have the ability to get definitions?
Can you right-click on
And
ask for dictionary?
There are parts that have a dictionary,
Okay.
but they're not here. The performance task, one of the performance tasks, will tell you all the materials you need to take care of this. Why is including dialogue important to understanding this passage or the passage? Pick 3 choices. Anyone can go onto this site. This is not just my site. So you can all go home and practice. I will put the link up on my site at curriculum under SAU. It's, for those of you at home, it's www.smarterbalanced.org. And you can use a / and practice test, and it'll take you right to this.
Let me ask this, because I don't know the answer, and it's, you can go on, I can go on,
Yep.
our teachers can go on, can kids go on?
Sure, as long as you open up the site.
So as long as we open up, I guess I can't stress enough that this is what you're gonna do next time we have 10 minutes, kids. You're gonna sit down and go through this. Because it's just so different from.
Teach your father how to.
Teach your father how to do this, right. I understand that it's gonna take a long time for us to transition. We've been working with the NECAP, in the NECAP world for a period of time, and we've been comparing year over year, and we've been talking about what these results mean. This is gonna be different, and I know that in the region, at least in conversations that I've been a part of, we've talked about, wow, it's gonna be a transition. You're gonna have to consider that as we look at year 1 results, year 2 results, et cetera, but I just think it's important that we do everything we can, and I'm sure you are, but do everything that we can so that the test results reflect, to the extent possible, how the kids are doing, as opposed to how they felt about the testing application, because it is so fundamentally different from what they've done.
To add to this, I am going to speak to the parent group from the junior senior high sometime in January or February, and I will, of course, put them through this as well. But you can go on, you can download sample questions that you could use paper and pencil with.
Thank you.
But it is new. It's just like the first time we did NWEA. That was brand new to us. Now it seems like, we've been doing it for years. I tell the story of a student we had the first year we did it, and some of you remember what technology was like 7 years ago when we started this process here. And we're in the library at the middle school, and the reading comes up, and you have to scroll down, and you're reading the passage. And so I'm watching, and he's reading the passage, and all of a sudden he's going, and I got really nervous. Well, the machine started to flip, and he thought he wasn't keeping up with the reading. Poor kid. He was a mess. But the machine had actually started to just flip the reading, so it was going faster and faster and faster, and he was really trying so hard to keep up. He wasn't going to do it.
How does this, is this modified with special ed? How does this fit
Yes,
in?
they have all kinds of accommodations.
So, in the special ed department is familiar with
They
this?
have a list. They will get a list. They'll have to look at every student that we have almost.
Right, so small group testing, one-on-one testing, reading this portion.
Put them in a small room where there's no, because they'll have earphones on parts of the test, because there are sounds, in some of it, there's open text is what they call it. It's someone reading a passage aloud, but they call it open text. So you might have it, but Elizabeth might not have it. So we have to put earphones on you so that you're not disrupting Elizabeth from getting her work done. And everyone works at a different pace. Nate and Elizabeth might have the same question, but Elizabeth was faster today, so she got to that question before Nate because he was carefully reading and he didn't get to it yet. And it had noise, so everyone, but you're right, Gail, everybody, we'll have to look at who has to sit on the corner with their computer because they can't have anyone around them. Everybody, but it's going to be a year of really trial and error looking at it.
We're still starting at grade 3, right?
We're still in grade 3, yes.
But the test starts at grade 3.
Yes, grade 3.
Just like NECAP did,
Yes.
okay. Are we, has there been a writing prompt electronically?
Not yet.
In NWEA, or have the kids had to type an answer?
What they've done is put in computer class.
Yep.
From what Mrs. Burke has told me, she gives them a writing prompt, and they write, but not in a test format.
Not yet, until now.
Until now.
Okay.
Can I
Jane?
ask if
children that may not have computers at home and access to regular use of a computer, are they given extra attention to? So, because obviously you have to be trained to take this test. It's not, I mean,
No.
and children who have it at home and have, you know.
That's a good point.
They're
I think
quite
we'll look at
capable of
that.
doing that maybe, but maybe not those.
I think
that
that's
have
one of the
access.
reasons we're using the computer lab at the elementary school for some of this, because everybody's there in the room, and you can all see and ask the same questions. And for the child who doesn't want to ask that question, somebody's always there to ask that.
Well, I think the teachers probably have a good pulse on who, you know, might.
Who does and who
have
doesn't, yes.
access to that stuff at home. I
But you
feel
can see the
confident in that. I just
So we don't want to leave anyone behind to have that kind of
You could
ability.
definitely see the socioeconomic
Yeah.
division pop out on this more than you did in a
Obvious.
pencil and paper, for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to close this out, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. That's what I was hoping for. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Oh, and we have mics too. We can turn the lights back on. Oh dear, now it's really dark.
Are you done with that?
Yes, thank you, you can shut my. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Pat?
Yes, I'm.
Thank you very much.
Any other?
I can get them. I would hold on to it if you took tomorrow morning. Or if you go back up, just put it on his desk. On Penny's
Well,
desk.
he'll talk about it during the end.
That's yours, right?
Will you talk about curriculum format when you report?
Yeah, yeah.
Any questions for Pat? No? Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
I gotta finish my report. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I had three other quick kind of reading reports. We had our first kindergarten task force last night. We have a group of about 10 working on some questions. There will be some information on the website. There is a website page. Pat is in the process of posting some of that. We've got a whole series of questions, so I'd encourage people to take a look at that. We're meeting next Wednesday night, and we will keep you informed of the meetings after that. For everyone's information, we're looking at the possibility of a survey for people in the community to give us some feedback. In the packet tonight, we spoke at the last budget about the evaluation process. The board, I went to the various documents and policies and all of that. I'm not going to read that to you tonight, but I think there's a dozen or so pages in the board packet about the evaluation process. And that's policy of the board, and as superintendent, I'm responsible to complete the policies as prescribed in the board. I thought some of you might appreciate seeing that.
Thank you.
My next step with the evaluation process is that I'll be attending the evaluation committee meeting, which Chris Mazzola.
Oh, Mazzoni.
Mazzoni.
I apologize,
It's
Chris.
late.
I apologize, Chris. Anyways, is chairing, and that's meeting within the next 5 or 10 days. So I'll be attending that, and I'll be a little stronger, and we're going to make things happen. The last thing I had in the report was a comparison report of the tax rate for the current year. Our tax rate went from 1502 to 16. The two factors that drove that increase was counterbalanced by one factor. The two factors were the budget increase and the assessment dropping 4.4%. That is a large drop, and I think unexpected. When I saw some white faces downstairs. And then the fund balance counteracted that because that was a unanticipated revenue by being a balance of $622,000. And that's how we came out with those numbers. When I say, I think people were surprised at the 4.4%. I don't think they'd had that number very long. I didn't ask them how long they knew the change, but the evaluation had to be done officially, as I understand it, thoroughly every 5 years. It's gotten tighter timelines in recent years because of state adequacy, and it is what it is.
So, I didn't double-check the numbers, but I got, not your numbers, but we got the email, I got the email from the town, the town's newsletter that comes out, and it said that essentially that the rate in the absence of the revaluation would have been $24.62, which would have been a 16-cent delta, which would have been $50 for the year on a $300,000 home, give or take, $48, $50, what have you. And so I didn't double check that. That feels like the assessment was a much bigger swing impact than I would have guessed intuitively, but going with it because that's what they published. I'm sure they double checked it. I think it's important for us to say that I was just running the numbers that the difference between our rate as published and what it would have been was not 98 cents like we had talked about, or like we're showing it would have been essentially a nickel. I mean, a quarter. So there's some other things there that offset it to bring it down to what would have been 16 cents and is now, whatever, 98. Is that not for us, but the overall rate changed by whatever it did, $1.29 or whatever?
Yeah, $1.29.
But that reval really had a big impact, and so that fund balance really had a big impact, and I think it's important that we continue to communicate that because that helped, certainly helped.
The 4.4, when I looked at the numbers some time ago, the 4.4 actually decrease translates into a corresponding 4.4% increase to the tax rate, just on that one item alone.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think, Nate, if you get your calculator, if you took 1502 and multiplied it by 1.044.
That's what I was trying to chase down. Yeah, you see, and it's there and it's real, but I think I know that we were talking about a bigger swing when we were talking about a 7% increase. It was $1 million+ bucks. So I'm thankful that we saw the kind of relief that came from that fund balance, especially.
Yes. Yes.
Can I ask a question, if I can, on the Department of Revenue page? I think that you all are just looking at. What the less education grant, is that the funds that go to the state and come back to us, or what is that? Is that just gone? Because it seems somehow to impact our bottom line at the end of the day.
That's the state aid.
Newmarket gets that.
Yep.
The $2.35 million, that's a gift. Don't forgive me, I don't mean to say that. That only quoted to say it's a gift. That's the money that comes from the grant, the education grant statewide.
Okay.
Tobacco, business profits, business taxes, any number of other things. That's coming from away. The next line down, the education tax.
Yep.
That's what we raise here. The state gets to take credit for it, but if the state stopped doing it, we'd still raise it here. The statewide education property tax.
So what does the 11 million represent at the end of the day?
Amount to be raised by taxes.
Right.
Yep.
Amen. As opposed to from any other source. But really, for me, it's always been, the 11 million gets raised in local taxes, so does the 1.7 below it.
Yeah.
The state just gets credit for that part. But the 2.351 you were looking at, that's literally the check that comes, 4 different payments over the year, but that comes from the state grant.
Okay, thank you.
That completes my report.
Thank you. All right, committee reports. Matt, can you talk about curriculum meeting?
Yeah. I met with the superintendent, the 2 principals, and Pat Valentine in the office on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. And the meeting probably lasted about an hour. We went over some of my expectations, and maybe we shared some ideas about how we get to a documented curriculum as we move forward. I included some information that was handed out to the board in the past, but I shared a lot of my thoughts and experiences as to where we thought. And I just wanted to draw your attention to the timeline. I was looking for
to have everything wrapped up, hopefully before we go back to school next year. I know it's ambitious, but I think that's a reasonable expectation.
I think that's the theme of what we're trying to do on many levels, is
Yeah.
being ambitious, trying it.
Yeah. As you can see, we included some things, and I just added some. It's just a collection of different ideas that I shared with the group. It was a real productive meeting. I expect to hear something back. I think it's next Thursday. I think, Mike, you said 2 weeks.
I think we
Yeah.
have that. I think we need to confirm that with you, yes, but we've got
Yeah.
a date.
Yeah, and I'll draw your attention to the back. There was this, what we really were looking for is a low-level, informative piece that would allow parents to look and teachers to see, or students to see, what we're going to cover over the whole school year. And then that would be one piece, and then second piece would be a more informative piece where parents who really want to dig into the curriculum and see what it is we're actually teaching the kids during the day, and hopefully provide some resources, and to document that, so we can, as we move forward with the teachers coming, going, retiring, that we have some place to catch all that knowledge that they've and all the classes and the benefits of their experience have brought to the town. That's pretty much it. I mean, it was in 2 weeks, next Thursday, like I said, I was hopefully anticipating something anxiously.
Yeah.
So if you had any questions about it, I mean, I know it's just, it's a lot of information to take up, but it's with the experience that we have in the town and the people that we have, this should be something that's very, very readily available for them to compile. And maybe we'll talk about things about, going down the road.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, CIP meeting. Nate?
Unless
Hasn't been a
I
meeting.
missed it, they're looking to reschedule,
Okay.
to come back to talk about the schools and have not yet done so.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Budget committee?
Yeah, I was attended the last meeting, and I believe Mary Jane was excused. She had called the chair and announced that she wasn't coming. And the three dates are the two major dates. Is they were expecting our documentation on November 25th, and that's the schedule. And they made a decision at the committee meeting to kind of deal with the town's budget first. And our first meeting before Budget Committee is December 22nd, which is close to the holiday, but they believe after that, and then I believe we have a meeting right after that, like January, first few days in January, and I don't have the date on top of me, so we'll make that happen, get the date to them.
Thank you. Elizabeth, teacher evaluation?
We meet on November 19th.
You're up. Didn't we do that last time? This is the committee that you were gonna jump into, maybe not.
I was waiting for an email. I think that's what it was. Let
Okay.
me know, or
I'll let you know.
shoot me
So
an
we just
email.
So we'll send you this email, 'cause I just, Chris Mazzoni's been organizing, and he just sent an email. I didn't remember reading the details, but if it says the 19th, I'll forward it to you tonight.
Please do, yeah.
'Cause
Show me some
you would-
love.
You would like that.
Show
You'll
me
enjoy
some
that
love.
committee.
So is there an agenda that's been posted so far, or some talking points?
Nope.
Any follow-up actions?
No, we have spent the last few months just getting Mike ready, taking Sean Pine getting ready. We have new teachers, so it's just been.
Okay. Okay. And Joint Advisory Committee. So there are three different sections in this report. The first, I'll give you the notes from the recent meeting we had, discussion about hiring of a structural engineer, and then kind of a follow-up discussion about tuition. So we talked about the progress report of tuition, looking at Epping, Dover, and Exeter. Exeter seems to be interested in a short-term basis. They can take some 9 through 12, with a possibility of, 11 through 12, but they can't be the school of record. They have it in their policy that they cannot exceed 2,000 students. Looking at Dover, they only have capacity for 9 through 12, not for 6th through 8th grade. They may try to make things work, but it's the early stages of their construction. They're doing a construction project of $50 to $68 million, so that's a bit up in the air. Last is Epping. They have capacity for 9 through 12, but not for 6 through 8. They would be willing to meet with the Newmarket School Board for a preliminary discussion only. So the next piece I wanted to talk about was the building options. Mike presented the same information he did tonight. Thank you for doing that, with the focus of looking at both buildings. For the junior, senior high school, there was discussion about the total square footage, and I'm glad you clarified that. The discussion about the structural engineer, it was the advisement from Randy Bell and that team to hire a structural engineer, and in my words, to see the reality of the building and if we can do an ad reno. I do have documents so that when we go back to this as a discussion point, and Mike also emailed those. Next is phase 3. We spoke a little bit about it tonight. That's coming up. That will be part of the discussion we have at the Joint Advisory Committee. And the board, obviously, we need to start the conversation. And last but not least is the focus group. They're trying to plan something for early December, including faculty and community members, reaching out with principals at both buildings. We'll schedule groups to include all stakeholders, one day at the elementary school and one day at the junior, senior high school, with the emphasis of this being done after the Common Ground meeting on November 8th. And our goal is to still have the full report done in December, depending on how we feel about a warrant in March. So having said that, I'd like us to have a conversation about the structural engineer. Does anyone need a copy? Or
I do.
I
No.
do too, because I couldn't,
Yeah,
I
just give
didn't.
me-
That's fine.
So in 2004, we had an analysis done.
That's okay.
By Peter Stephenson, Team Design. That was our first facility analysis. And there were certain conditions that could not be determined because they were inaccessible. And then 2012, obviously Harriman did one. But my concern, that 2004, and I talked to Mike about this today, when Meridian went in there, they might have seen things that maybe they could speak about. Maybe, so here's my concern. Do we pay for a new structural engineer? Or do we spend the $2,000 and just look at what we already have? Because that's the price they gave us, $2,000, or do we hire somebody new?
I think the concern is what information we have access to, which was the same information that may or may not have led to the discussion about an ad reno being a non-possibility versus a new building being a possibility.
So if the JAC looks at that, Randy Bell and his consultants look at that, plus what Peter Stephenson did, plus speak to Meridian, maybe we have our answers right in there. Because they would look at it with different eyes. My thought.
Well, Stephenson came back once and told us that they couldn't provide us with whether the building was structurally sound. What makes us think they can tell us that now? I guess.
They couldn't sign off on it because there were things they couldn't see, if I read the report right. There were things that they couldn't see because it was they couldn't get to it, asbestos and all that. So when Meridian removed that, they were in that building. They maybe saw things.
But I don't think they did a structural analysis. I don't think Meridian was looking at it from that lens.
Do we know if, no, they weren't.
No.
No, but I think what you can find out from those drawings that we got from Harriman, that he should be able to extract some information. So obviously, we can't open up the walls as everybody would like to and say, this is exactly what we're looking at. But I think what it'll allow you to do is, from Harriman's drawings, to pull out what you need. Plus, I believe with the other reports that we have and the summaries, with all that other information that we've already paid for, that they can get to the root. The major question is to find out if the existing building, the old part, I think, what is it, the 1925 section, the oldest part of the building, is that seismic? And I think they're targeting that one goal, because I think essentially we've had structural engineers that have already said that the building is structurally sound and that, seismic. And I think this was just to get an independent verification of that. I sent out an email today, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I just wanted clarification on that one question. And I know, Mike, you sent out something to us with the summary, and I think there's real something, whether we believe what we're told or not believe. There was a paragraph that was in this summary that essentially said that the building that's there now is existing, is structurally sound. It goes on to say that, and I call it Stengalese because you never get a straight answer if people are trying to avoid things, but it essentially said if you made it a change, or if you removed a structural wall, you had to replace it in kind. And that's what the paragraph essentially was targeting. So, and that only makes sense. If we look at our regular homes today, if we open up a bearing wall or tear down a bearing wall, the floor above is going to fall down, and that's essentially what he's saying, is that you have to put something back in to support that. So with that being said, I was on, and it was still up in the air, I think, this afternoon, but I think I got an email back from Randy later in the day, which he essentially said that, to get this alternative evaluation done so that we can stay above the fray. And now that I see this report, I was concerned it was like $5,000 to $7,000 bottom line, but I just read real quick, and it's, if he can extrapolate the information out of the existing documents that we have, we only have a $2,000 risk. And if they have to dig into it, which is a very responsible thing to do, it's $5,000 to $7,000, which I understand. I guess my further, and I don't want to venture too far off because this August 21st meeting where we parted the seas, but I think that, at some point, like Mike Hoffman said at that meeting as well, he brought up the point that, he felt that the building was structurally sound as well, and I think that he said that he wasn't qualified to say that the building was structurally sound if we add weight to it, or we change it, or we modify it, which only makes sense even at home. If we had a 10 by 10 mudroom onto our house, we still need a structural engineer to look at that and approve it before we can get our building permit to go ahead and do that. So that being said, at some point, we should have like a higher level drawing, which I don't think the structural engineers can do. And I think there's a couple of balls that we have to start throwing up in the air here at some point. I know we talked about the fire and life safety architect, engaging that and getting the RFPs back. But I think at some point, we have to get the student population nailed. I mean, we have to put pressure on Randy somehow to just give us a ballpark number, whatever that number may be. It's just to get us to a point where an architect can responsibly look at that and say, this is what I think might work if we do the ad reno, regardless of whether it's K through 8 or 9 through or 6 through 12 or whatever the case may be. Just look at the numbers that we're looking at. Then at some point, say, at a high level, not engaging them, but just to give us a rough look so that the structural engineer can say, yeah, you might be concerned about different areas, and this may be the way to go about approaching it. And it's just that in a responsible way.
And I share those sentiments, and I think it's that responsible way that we really need to continue to drive. I think as a board, we've really taken the reins on that and leaving no stone unturned. And I think that if we really want to seriously talk about an ad reno in that building, it needs to begin with an unbiased perspective with outside sources telling us, can you do it, yes or no? And not only that, if we want to talk about phase 3 with the elevator, we're going to need to have a structural engineer to tell us the facts. Where can we put that elevator? Because we would like it in a central location, but that's based off of our opinion.
Yeah.
Just because it makes sense to us. But a structural engineer is going to be able to look at this building, become incredibly familiar with the ins and outs of it, will be able to look in places where they really need to look, and that's our answer to move it forward. So we're doing the tuition route. If we want to do the ad reno and actually look at it seriously, we need to get a structural engineer in there to say, yes, you can, or no, you can't.
Well, it looks like Bernie Davis is the one that requested their services here, or requested what their services
Yep.
would be,
Yeah.
so.
Bernie's the same gentleman
are you
that did the
asking for?
report in 2006.
I think we're asking for $2,000.
Yeah.
For the 2,000.
2,000?
And get the things going and.
Point of the microphone. Bernie's one of the three
Like,
consultants.
I'm like, where is he? No, he's not here.
So my question is, before we, I don't, I find a 7-page, this is why we need a facilities director, by the way, for the Hampton School District. And it's not in this budget, and I don't know where it comes from in the future, but it's insane that we are here collectively trying to decide if we have the appropriate structural engineering documentation so that a structural engineer can adequately assess what we have for a building. There's got to be somebody standing here on our payroll, maybe not on our payroll, but on our contract, and if it's not Bernie Davis and if it's not Randy Bell, and I don't expect our BA and our superintendent to have PEs and be able to judge this, and maybe you've got one and you can do it, but I haven't seen these documents. I find a 7-page Harriman document in here, and strike me down, Harriman is suspect in my mind. I'm uncomfortable with a lot of what they said and did because I don't know that it always had the best of intentions, and that's part of why we're talking about a third-party analysis. It's part of why we got these consultants working on this, so I don't like to count on that. But you guys were just talking about Stephenson already haven't been here and already haven't done this, or done something.
2004.
Okay,
So
I
that
didn't,
would-
so
it's an
I,
old study.
It would
They
be-
would need to,
but it would be-
right, because we've
So
had
if
they
they
were
were
to
to
use
use
the
the
old drawings that they already used to do an updated study, because obviously a study from 2004.
so I guess my next question is, if Stephenson can do, if he's already seen the documentation, he can do the job for $2,000, to do the job for $2,000. If he's seen the documentation and it isn't satisfactory, it's gonna cost 5 to 7, then it's gonna cost 5 to 7. Why can't he tell us that if you're telling me he's already been here and done analysis once before?
Well,
We shouldn't have to
Well, I guess
decide
that
the
was
difference.
kind of my question.
He's got
How
to decide the
can
difference,
he?
right?
But I'd almost suggest this. We know it's a range of between $2,000 and $7,000. And we have you and Gail representing us on the board. Why don't we just allow you to have that latitude to make that decision?
Well, you need
You
to
know?
decide. As a board, we've got
Yeah.
to reach a consensus or make a motion
You know?
to carry it forward.
I mean, that way I think it's real important for us not to slow the process down.
That's what we
And
said
just,
the other night.
and just keep going, and I
Absolutely.
think move the ball forward. But my next question is, where's the money?
Dual purpose.
Okay, so we can use that fund for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would recommend, though, that we actually approve it for a little more than 2,000, because it does say here plus reimbursable expenses, which is printing, plotting, travel, postage.
So as part of the motion,
Probably, I don't know. what
as
an
part of the
estimate.
motion,
Say not to exceed 7,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Go with the
That's
higher
another
of-
thing.
and
we
if we
start-
need to amend it, we can.
If we start
Yeah,
approaching that
just-
based on expenses, then I can come back to you and say
Just
what
beat
we'll
them
have
up.
Yeah.
No, we want to make friends with them.
So wait a minute, we're going to do not to exceed 7,000.
He's asking you the job again, but he's already done.
Hold on, Elizabeth had a question.
But when you go to have something done, you're going for the $2,000 route, correct? Because.
That is correct.
Okay, say that again, Mary Jane.
Yeah, right.
Well, because she just said not to exceed $7,000, we were all just talking about the $2,000
Right.
option. So if we approve it not to exceed $2,000, not to exceed $7,000, we want to make sure that the purpose is for Christine to approach the $2,000 option first. Thank you.
That's what I was going to
So,
say.
Yes.
so if it doesn't go any further than that, then that would be it. It would be the $2,000.
He must still have this information.
Oh, of course, I bet.
So,
And
I mean, we could
have
look
it
at that
too.
and just see what we
Wait,
did with
Nathan
the-
is saying one thing, and I just feel like, I want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
What I thought Nathan was saying is that it's really up to the Stephenson to determine whether it's 2,000 or the 5 to 7.
No. I think it should be the joint
'Cause
advisory committee.
I wouldn't know.
Or Mr. Bell make
They-
that decision, or
no,
whoever.
They can't.
They can't,
do
there's
it
no
directly.
voting authority
Yeah.
on the JAC.
No, but I guess what I was saying is, if we are contemplating, I mean, this is so fundamental, but if we're contemplating putting our trust in this structural engineer to tell us if that building is safe for us to be in, then certainly that structural engineer ought to be able to look at the documentation that exists
That
and
he
tell
wrote,
us that that's sufficient or not sufficient to render a judgment. If he says it's not sufficient and he needs to do another one, and he's lying, then we should check and see if he's on Harriman's payroll. But for the time being, if he's willing to tell, I mean, if he's, This board can't judge whether or not it's
And
going
I
to be
can't
2
either.
out of
That's
7.
what I was trying to say.
Well, he ought to do it in writing, and he ought to say, I have thoroughly reviewed.
But
and-
don't forget, he's working with Bernie as
Right.
well, who's
Yeah.
a facilities expert. So
Yeah, that's
this
why I
is,
would-
he's the oversight guy. He's the
Yeah.
one that's going to be looking at this study
Yeah.
and holding this process accountable. This is, to me, this is vital. If we want to look at that ad reno, and if we want to try to get something for the March ballot, in my opinion, this gives the keys to that car to start getting itself out of the parking lot.
And we want him to look at what he already has. So
Yeah,
we're
well, I
being
think Mary
fiscally
Ann's going down there.
responsible first.
Mary Jane's
Well,
maybe doing
I'm
it.
thinking that we should approve an expenditure not to exceed $2,500. It's $500 for reimbursables, and you can come back if we find that we need more than that. I don't think we should, if we're shooting for the $2,000 option, we're a little more in there for
I think we're
reimbursables,
going to
and
meet every
then,
Thursday for at least the rest of.
Well,
Yeah,
I
so-
don't want to slow it down if it's more than that. See, I think that my
I don't
issue
think
would
it's gonna
be,
be
is the
more than-
timing. That's my only issue, Mary Jane, is that we adjourn today. There's a meeting, I think, scheduled next week.
Next Thursday.
And if at that meeting, it's determined, if between now and then it's determined that they need more than the $2,000, that means they have to wait for a whole nother week.
Well, and holiday.
but we're going to be meeting every week until,
We'll post it.
till
No, I know, but I guess that it's,
2015.
but I guess, I'm the type of person that would probably work right through the weekend. But to me, that's lost time if
It's hard. I feel like at some point, we got to trust the people that we've engaged to do
Yeah.
some of this stuff for us. And so I would say, just let them have the authority, but then report back on why it needed to be one number versus another number. And then, obviously, you guys need to be responsible for making sure that we're not wasting, you guys are in the business of making sure we're not wasting money in the first place. And so
We're
you ought to
fiscally
do it in
responsible,
this
so.
way.
So we got a motion?
I think, Mary Jane, are you comfortable?
I'd like to make a motion to approve an amount not more than $7,000 to engage Stephenson Engineering Associates for a structural assessment.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Think about that.
That was good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and the last conversation we need to have is about the tuitioning update. And some of this will just be my rambling, as well as some emails I've gotten from people. So, I'm thankful we have the Joint Advisory Committee. I'm thankful we have a public conversation. It's transparent. Things get driven here, we report there. But I think at some point, we need to relook at the parameters for tuition and grades. I know that we reached a consensus about 6 through 12, all going to one district. Knowing the details we have now of these potentially Epping and Dover having capacity for only 9 to 12, I think we need to have a follow-up conversation about changing that model of 6 through 12. I think that it looks like, to some, it's making it impossible to really fully vet out the tuition piece. And to some, I worry that it's making us as a board look a bit disingenuous, and that we don't want a tuition at all. And those are hard words for me to say out loud, because to hear them, I felt kind of shocked that someone would say that, because we've been doing so much work, we've been considerate, we've been very open and honest. But it hit me. It hit me as, wow, what is the perception? I know the perception that some community members have, that they want an all or nothing, and I get that. But I think knowing now, if we really want to fully vet the purpose of the Joint Advisory Committee and those 2 or 3 options, we really need to think about looking at 9 through 12. And I'd like to add to that, if you don't mind, if we're looking at capacity in both of those buildings, if we have 9 through 12 going out of district, we can bring 5 through 8 to the junior, senior high school. That frees up the load on the elementary school. That may be a proactive step so we have more space. We can look at adding kindergarten. and it decreases the amount of ad renos we would need to do at both of those buildings. So I think we need to reevaluate and reconsider the consensus about 6 through 12 and moving it to 9 through 12.
All right, so the challenge is here for me, I got two conversations going on, because and then I understand that this board has authority, but the night that we sat talking initially about what the consultants would do, sitting at the joint advisory committee meeting, I remember sitting across from Randy and saying, so, I don't know, it seems like if you're gonna take the time to ask somebody if they can take tuition, if they can tuition our kids in, or if they can accept our kids, you'll ask them both if they're available for 9-12 and if they're available for 6-12. Or are they available for 6-8, are they available for 9-12? I thought that the conversation at this board was not intended to be disingenuous. It was, you're not going to move 5th to 8th grade into that building and then do nothing with it. You still have to upgrade air quality. We're working on life safety and ADA, which was why there was conversation around that table about, can you move K-8 into that facility so that we could at least drop off one of the facilities, one of the buildings.
Another one, yep.
So it felt like all of that stuff was in play. What this board expressed was an interest and a preference in having all of the kids go in one place, and that's what we should be seeking out. If somebody is now taking that and saying, oh, well, that's just one more roadblock, well, I don't see that as a roadblock. That was this board expressing its preference.
Right.
The consultants, Randy just admitted he just reported the other night, this one can take 9-12, this one can't, this one can, so I kind of feels like we're doing that anyway.
But
there are people in the community that are now calling and saying, not enough.
Well, but I also want to be courteous to the board, because I don't want to say at a joint advisory committee, yeah, Randy, go ahead and look at 9 through 12, when we reached a consensus of 6 through 12. So that's why I want to bring it back to us to have this conversation, because I'm not comfortable speaking for the board, especially we had a public conversation, we reached consensus, and that was the direction that I was given by you all. So
why does it have to change?
You
don't know, because we've already, I understand, I think where he's going. I think what he's trying to do is take this, I thought what we agreed to at that meeting when he was here was that he was going to chase it down all the way to the end.
Yep.
And I don't think we've stopped that. I think it's just, I think we still, as a consensus, those questions that we were asked at that time was, 6 through 12. And I still feel the same way, but I think that he still has an obligation to chase this down, to see what all of our options are, and put everything on the table.
And
I don't think that's changed.
I don't think it's changed either, but I just want to make sure we're comfortable with that. I just want to hear from the board. If that's the direction it's starting to head, then I don't want anyone feeling completely sideswiped when I come back with another update that it can only be 9 through 12.
Well,
I guess my question is, it sounds expensive to me. Because now we've got a building that we still need to renovate, but we're tuitioning out, and I'm looking at tax rates of towns that tuition out, they're not far from ours. They're actually right about the same. Like Barrington is $14.50, they have a higher valuation than us, so it would push it down a little bit.
$14.50 plus if you're a special ed, it's $9,000.
Brentwood is $17.79, they tuition. All those regional schools at Sanborn, their tax rates are through the roof for school. So it sounds expensive, and I'm not sure people realize how expensive it could potentially be. And so maybe Randy should look at that as well. Okay.
Well, I think that's part of it. Part of it is the assessment of, okay, now here's somebody who can accept tuition students. Then has to be coupled with, what are the inherent costs then? And what we were saying at this table was, if you do 9-12, we're going to be strapped with additional costs here for renovation anyway. So we think that if we're going out, 6-12 would be something we should be looking for. Randy's still looking for whatever he can find.
Yep.
And then it's coming back, I would expect to say, if you did 9-12, here's what would be left, here's your limited options, and this is what kind of costs might be involved, because you'd still have to do this and this. If you did 8-12, because they could take 8 to 12, Now you've got slightly different options. Eventually, maybe you get small enough at 7 to 12. He's looking at that. It's all about who can take and who can't.
Yeah.
And right now, he's only got 2 partners in the region who can take anybody, right? So, and I think the other thing that we were expressing was, it's, as I remember the conversation, and somebody will, we can play it back and we can listen to it, but that we weren't excited about the idea that we'd go in one direction for 6 to 8, and then we'd move them over to somebody else's town for 9 to 12.
Right.
Yeah,
So, I thought that was the conversation, but I don't know that, and I guess this is maybe a poignant matter you're bringing up. Was our conversation about 612 supposed to limit Randy so that he didn't talk to anybody unless it was 612? Or was it to give guidance and information about where the board hopes that we're heading?
Yeah.
Because he's asked the question, and he's already got answers, 9 to 12 here, something else over there, so.
But I think that directive of 6 to 12 was because of the cost we would incur on keeping open a building that we know needs to be renovated, in addition to tuitioning out 4 grades.
Part of his charge is to
So-
come back and answer that question and give us those costs and help compare
Yeah.
the options.
This is the
Yeah.
piece of the reporting, and then the giving us guidance to go back to Randy and having this as part of the agenda at our next meeting. So, these are notes I'll be taking, but I didn't want anyone being surprised if it turns out to be just 9 through 12. I think it's kind of what we need to have in our
Yeah, and I think if he-
wheelhouse of understanding.
If he comes back with a document that we can have on our desk and leave it there for 20 years, and saying that these are the options that we have, or these are the results of the decisions that you're going to make, this is how you have to look at it, just to give us further on down the conversation, it's about what happens after we leave. It's about having that document in place so that if 20 years or 30 years from now, it becomes too unbearable for us to manage this, although centuries, our generations before, Newmarketers have made the decision that they wanted to expand the school. I think it's just prudent for us to just let Randy keep, I don't want to change the 6 through 12. I think let him chase this rabbit all the way down the hole, and then whatever is in the hole, he's got to find and pull out. I mean, it's just.
So what you're saying, so we're staying with our directive 6 through 12, but you're saying for Randy to go ahead and speak to Epping, and throw out some
Well, I think
hooks.
that's what we said from day one.
Right, so find some hooks,
Just in case, so you find it. 'Cause-
see what they want to dance.
But they do. Epping wants to talk to us, but it has to be a serious conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece that we really need to determine, how serious are we if we're going to sit down with Epping's school board and have a conversation, a preliminary conversation.
So now you're asking for us as a board to sit with Epping.
Here's a question.
Elizabeth, no, let me clarify. I'm saying that Epping would like to sit with us and have a conversation, a
I heard that.
preliminary conversation, but we need to determine how serious we are about it, and I think we owe it to the town to take it as a serious opportunity, because that's what we're looking at for the Joint Advisory Committee. Just like we're taking it as a serious opportunity for an ad reno.
So we going to do this before or after Randy's final report? I thought we weren't going to be taking any actions until after Randy gave a final report, so I'm confused about that.
So those are all
And that
questions.
wasn't, that was their statement, that
So I can.
the Joint Advisory Committee was going to do their thing, and then come back with a final report.
Yep.
And we would act on that. I don't want to act before the report is out.
And I'm not asking us to act, I'm just reporting on those things, and if come December, Epping still wants to sit and meet with us, we need to do what we've said we were going to do, which is fully vet these options and not blinker ourselves in order to concentrate on a particular subject, so.
Well, here's a question. Let me phrase it to you this way. If we contracted Randy to go out and look for 6 through 12, it's no different than us going out and buying a car. We don't have to talk to the salesman. We can do all our paperwork and get our house in order and find out what we can afford and where the budget would fall. I was encouraged with Randy because he's got his vast experience in the educational field, and that would allow him to delve into our budgets and to find out exactly what the staffing would look like, the faculty, and what we would need for us to manage the existing, if the 6 through 12 is gone, And maybe he can do it real easy for the 9 through 12 and to make that decision before we start engaging in conversations, because it's almost, to me, it almost seems like it may be premature, because we don't even know what that cost would even look like
Right.
as we got closer to sitting down with them.
And you
I
wouldn't-
and I take that seriously in that I don't want to mislead anybody. I think it's, let's see, okay, this, where are we going with this number? What's this actually going to cost us? And then say, okay,
Yep.
you know, they may be out of budget, because their budgets are real similar to ours. So it just may be an apples for apples thing in the sense that it's no difference, but to have those line items, to have that document and just basically with empty spaces saying this is what we have to
And I
have.
don't think necessarily they can come up with a, I don't think Randy's group can come up with a cost, because each tuition and contract is different, but
Yeah.
he has provided some examples of tuition and contracts from other districts, and that can give us a general ballpark of what it may look like.
Yeah.
But so for now, we're going to continue to allow him to do his research and to do his work and report to us, and we'll bring it back to the board. One question is, how is that document in December going to look like? Is it going to have ranges for tuition and costs, possibly? When are we going to be meeting with the Epping School Board? Is that something that we even need to have? I guess I'm just going to throw it out there. Do we need to vote on that as a community to have a serious conversation?
We had to vote for Oyster River.
Yep.
So,
you know, those are all pieces, just kind of letting you know the timeline as we unpack some of these things that may be coming up. So.
Has Randy got into the numbers at all with you? As far as,
And I'm meeting with him on Monday as well.
and the
So I've already
conversation
given
is
him the budget.
around what our budget would look like if we tuition kids out? Not just the kids going out, but also what we have left here to manage?
Correct. I've given him a middle school only, and I've given him a junior, senior, 6 through 12 only budget. So I've given him both budget, both options,
So- But you,
and
but
remaining.
you already have the K through 5 numbers.
Mhm.
So that when we ask, we can have that. Okay.
So, like the last time, do we need to make a motion to allow me to give information to Randy, or are we comfortable with me updating him?
Yeah, you could just.
what information are we giving him? I guess that's what I want to hear.
Well, I stated the first one, what would the document look like in December? When would we possibly meet with the Epping School Board? And to let him know that we approved the use of the structural engineer.
And so to meet with the school board, do we have to go through a vote for that? That's what we have to
Okay,
find out.
I'll ask.
I think we do.
Okay. Are we comfortable with me updating him on this? Okay. All right. Can we do the calendar?
No, well, the calendar's coming up down below. That was the student report and her calendar.
Yeah,
and our
we
calendar.
had a few things we wanted to just add or have a conversation about.
The school, not the annual calendar.
No, this,
Oh, that
this one,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
That's okay.
I-
It's getting late.
I'm not keeping up. I apologize.
It's all right. Elizabeth, did you have something you wanted to add to the?
Let's make sure that we say when our workshops are, our budget works.
And the jeans, we need to
Right, and maybe
decide
sometime,
when we're bringing our jeans.
sometime
Oh,
next
we're going
week.
with that
Dorothy.
calendar? Oh, boy. I'm on the wrong one. I'm on the school one.
Well, we're popping things around a little bit.
Oh. Okay. I'm on.
I haven't even seen that calendar in my paper.
It's at the back, I think.
I've got December, but I don't have November.
Oh, it's on the
And I
back
have
of the other
November.
one.
Oh, is it in this one?
It's kind of in the back.
Oh, gotcha. Just kidding.
So our next school board meeting is November 20th. Do we want to, obviously have a work session?
I think we need something on the 12th.
Yes.
13th.
The Thursday.
13th.
Yeah.
Yeah, 13th.
Okay, a work session. Do we want to have it from 6, starting at 6 o'clock,
Yeah. What day are we looking at?
the 13th?
I cannot be here.
I can't, Thursday, the 13th.
We'll have a quorum,
Can we do it
Oh, on the 13th, yeah.
anything
I
other?
can be here on the 13th, I can't be here on the 12th.
Oh, and that's Veterans Day. Would anybody be willing to do it on the 19th, maybe?
Well, I think that week we're already going to have a work session at 6 o'clock and a regular school board member.
Right, but maybe could we meet on the 19th? I mean, would
What about
anybody?
the 18th before your advisory?
Oh, yeah.
Just because 2 of you are already coming that night?
Can you do the 18th? Can you
Is
do
that
it?
too much of a time crunch?
Tuesdays are rough for me, but I'll make it work.
I can do the
Go ahead.
18th.
Yeah.
I can do the 18th.
So a work session on the 18th,
Thank you, I truly, truly appreciate that.
Absolutely. Starting at
6.
6 o'clock is good for you.
Is an hour going to be enough, though? That's why I'm worried about.
We're gonna get a heads up. Oh, no, you could try, you guys are on the meeting.
Yeah, they have the JC.
Be here at 5.
You can?
Well, can everyone just check to see?
I can be here at 5. Can you be here at 5? If Mary Jane can do it.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, that's my daughter's birthday. So feel free to have the meeting without me if I have any questions. Because I'm already going to be at the JAC and it's, my daughter's turning 5.
It's my husband's birthday.
Oh.
Do you want to try another night?
No, I think that's convenient for everybody.
All right.
Friday.
Chris, you've taken these notes.
What's wrong with the 12th? The 12th was out? The 12th is not, is
I
there?
won't be here on the 12th.
Oh, you're not?
I'm
Okay. Oh,
flying
all right.
back from Texas.
What about Monday?
Okay.
Okay.
I will be on the 12th.
I'm leaving tomorrow morning.
I thought you said you weren't available.
The 13th. We had to shift I had to shift my other school board meeting from the 11th, and we went to Thursday the 13th.
Oh, okay.
So the 12th, I mean, we'd be doing it without Mary Jane, though, so.
Well, if we really look at the budget development schedule, we have to have the budget approved by November 20th. So giving ourselves only 2 work sessions, I think is something we really need to reconsider.
So can we do
Especially
the
'cause-
12th and the 17th?
Yeah, why don't
I won't be here on the 12th, but.
The 17th is a Monday?
Not even in town. Okay, great.
No, that's okay. Elizabeth, it's okay, because I can't make the 18th.
What time can you get here?
Well, I was going to say, I don't have to be to the board meeting at 6:30, so if the 13th worked earlier,
I could do earlier.
like 4:30 or 5 or whatever, 5
Yeah.
o'clock on the, if we could get in an hour and a half.
You won't be here still, Mary Jane?
On the 13th? Yes, I come home the 12th, so I will be, yeah.
Okay.
Earlier rather than.
So do we
Yeah.
want it
5 o'clock on the 13th?
Can you make it by 5?
Or just,
I can be here for 5.
okay, 5
Matt,
o'clock.
5
Yep.
o'clock?
Yep.
And you guys go as long as you want, and then I got to kick out, let's say by 6:30, 7 o'clock, I got to kick out to make the rest of that meeting in
Yeah.
Hampton.
And we're gonna have Sean and Chris, right?
So 5 to
Oh.
7?
We'll start with Sean first.
Yeah, finish
To
him up.
finish
Yeah.
that, and
Can we
then,
make sure that he can make it?
can we check with him?
He's a good egg.
Yeah, I think you mentioned next Thursday, and he didn't,
Okay.
right, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
We'll confirm.
Okay,
You still want to do an hour or two or something before the 18th?
on the
then?
18th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then we have to vote it, we're going to have an hour to vote it on the 20th.
Yeah. And
Well, maybe
we do the work session there too.
we do the work
Just to
session and then
finish
we
up anything.
we ease up the agenda.
Yeah. And
Let's
just-
ease up the agenda on the 20th, Mike, so that we can focus on finalizing the budget for vote.
So we're meeting on the 18th, or what?
At 5 o'clock on the
Yep.
18th, 5 o'clock on the 13th,
And 6 o'clock on the 20th.
6 o'clock on the 20th.
So we have the 13th at 5 PM, on the 18th at 5 PM, and on the 20th at 6.
6 to 7.
Now the challenge is to go see where we can do it.
Yes. Yeah. And Mike and I will make sure we make a very light agenda so that we focus primarily on the budget. We want to make sure we get the copies to the BudCom by the 25th.
I'm going to be rude, and I have to text my husband.
All
I'm
right, so
sorry.
jeans for a link together. When do we want to take a picture on the 13th?
We're gonna be here, might as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we wearing jeans?
No, we're gonna bring in jeans.
Oh.
To
It's
bring in-
okay.
But we have to be
We can
funny,
wear
right?
We
jeans.
can wear
too.
jeans
That
too. We
works
have
for
to
me.
come up
Wear
with the
jeans.
goofiest thing going. And some of the kids will be in it with us. We can they can come too. They'll bring some of the jeans they've collected, is what I understood.
Do you want me, is it okay if I contact Ree and let her know at 5 o'clock?
Jeans down on the calendar.
Is that okay? That I
Yeah.
call her?
5 o'clock.
You'll all have to email me about what funny thing we're doing, because
Yeah,
I'll be away.
Well, just because we wear jeans doesn't mean they have to be pants. We can wear them in funny ways.
I wanted to ask the kids.
I'm not that
I'm not going
creative.
there.
It's getting late.
I do a double Windsor with a...
There you go, see? All right, so I'll
I feel like a size 2.
So, you know what, everybody buy a bag of Smarties and tape them all over your jeans, and then we can all be a bunch of Smarty pants.
Smarty pants.
Yay.
We just said it out loud. No wonder somebody steals our idea.
Oh, that's okay.
Do you think any of those other 72 schools or 52 schools
watching
are
us?
watching Channel 13?
They might be. This is high stakes. There's some sweet
yeah.
prizes. You heard that, right? Sweet
So we
prizes.
copyright and trademark our ideas. All right, so
right.
thank you for doing the calendar. Old business.
Yeah, in the packet, there is a
that's
a
it.
small little thing of to-dos to prepare the property for
Oh,
a
yeah. it's back
potential
here.
site burning, and we're in the process of completing that work, starting that work and completing that work. The main challenge with that is that we have to file a report that shows that we do not have any hazardous material outside the building. And we have contacted Ransom Consulting Engineering to provide that, a proposal to check for that. That doesn't include abatement after that. So we're working on that.
Can they also abate it?
They can help us find an abating company. I believe they're engineering, I don't believe they do abating, but there are abatement areas around.
We can use the same one that we've used already as
Yeah.
well.
So that is moving. There's quite a bit to do there. We have to check old fluorescent lights on the inside. We have to check for asbestos, and I believe we have to check for asbestos on the outside. But that's part of the cleanup process, is to move forward with the cleanup. The architect elevator piece, we have had engineering started on Phase 3, Project D. They were in there yesterday. A special thanks to the town. The code compliance officer joined us in that inspection, which I thought was helpful. He understands that project very well, and all indications are that we should have some information on that. Now, this inspection that we're doing is the application for the waiver, and I'm not sure it's called a
that
waiver.
front part.
For that two parts where the ramps are in the connection of the 65 with the 25, and all of that work, and that is underway, and that's an important piece, and I kind of like to know what that report is before, as soon as we know that report, and it looks good, then we're going to start the work on getting that design work for the elevator.
How are we doing on the RFPs from the architectural firms?
For that?
Yeah. Is that the same thing? Is that different?
Well, I think it's going to be a phone call, and we're going to get we're going to make 2 or 3 phone calls, because it's a small project, and ask them to submit a fee schedule to do that.
Well, if this falls around your JAC meeting, can you bring that up to Randy and let him know that this is what the timing would be?
I think he kind of knows that we're talking about Phase 3, because Phase 3 was on the agenda at a JAC meeting
Well,
last.
I'm looking at it as a perspective of, if the structural engineer is going in there to evaluate that old building, he's gonna need something to look at and say, if we do an ad reno, this is potentially what we might do with the building.
Mhm.
And he would, with the key piece, I think, is student count, find out exactly what that would look like, in generalities, not specific at all. And it's just a simple block drawing. No elevations, no decorative, there's an idea, this is how it should flow, because an architect would have that experience.
Well, have the architect and the structural engineer talk.
Yeah.
Even maybe schedule it on the same day, or, I just think more eyes on the prize, the more information we're going to get, and everyone's
Yeah, because
on.
if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Right, okay.
So, that's moving. A few minutes ago, during budget, at 6 o'clock, we talked about a transportation/bus contract. We mentioned going for multi-year instead of a single year. I always feel better if there's an action. I think the action might simply be to direct the administration to pursue bids on a multi-year contract of 3 and 5 years, and with the fact that the board would have the right to accept or reject any and all bids.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Direct administration to pursue
Yep.
what?
Make a motion that we direct the administration to
Collect bids.
collect bids from available transportation vendors for a multi-year student busing contract of 3 or 5 years.
I think that's it. That
Within,
last one.
within the contracts, do they usually give distances that they're generally going to be traveling to?
We'll do all that work.
Okay,
You're talking about the routes. We'll identify the routes.
okay.
And we'll put them
And
on.
it's a 3 or 5 year proposal. Which one?
Yeah, yeah. We'll ask them to bid on both those
Okay.
changes.
Was there a second to that?
I seconded
Okay,
that.
Any discussion? Which we already started, sorry. Okay.
That's right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I think Christine really spoke to the Seacoast School of Technology and in the budget. I don't know if we need to add to that tonight. The next item is voting day, professional day, and union thoughts. We talked about changing the school calendar this year. We don't have to act on this tonight, but the one thing that I can tell you that is if we're going to have anything to do with schools and voting and bonds, town officials would prefer that we hold the meeting at the school.
Yeah.
They were pretty firm on that, and
Yeah, I think its space is too small.
the space is too small. And I was here yesterday with that, Tuesday with that turnout, and it was pretty busy.
Yeah, it was,
Outside was pretty busy, parking was,
and it was only 50% of the voters.
Right, right.
51% came out and voted.
yep. So the question was, and maybe we'll look for an action in November, the end of the second month, is, the question was, do we want to keep school and have voting the same day? It can happen. There was some feeling about having a teacher workshop voting day and the kids stay home and change the schedule around, and there was different thoughts on that. I'm not going to lobby for either of those. Some people brought it up. I'm okay if you just say, we're going to have voting at the high school on Tuesday, whatever
I
it
just
is.
worry about safety, but the police.
But I've talked with the town, and they could make more safety officials available.
Okay.
And have the kids park across the street.
We talked about doing that as well.
Getting them right out of there.
Yeah,
That's a really good
We'll do
idea.
parking across the street.
Yeah, because that way the other people could park there.
Yeah.
Even teachers.
But then voting starts at 7, the buses come, could be kind of a mess.
Well, we'll work that out.
So all right, we don't worry about that, that's
I
administration.
really think the town doesn't want it here.
No, I agree.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mess.
I don't want it here. I don't want to wait in line.
Isn't there a boxing match here over the weekend?
Yeah, that was
Fine, okay.
interesting.
So I'm going to get a little more details, okay? We had a meeting, Nathan and Elizabeth and I had a wonderful meeting with the folks of Nottingham about tuitioning the opposite way, and that is to accept some of their students. I think in summative form, Nottingham was very gracious. They acknowledged the fact that they had looked at our quality of the school, referred to some reports saying that we're one of the better high schools in New Hampshire. That got their attention. I think they're questioning about, they're concerned about the future. I think it's really somewhat independent. The real question would be, whether the board would be willing to ask the people that if we have a high school, would you agree to permit us to accept kids from Nottingham? I don't know if you need an action at that. Sometimes I put things on warrants that just give people a chance to comment on that. But this is a little different because we're voting, but it would be brought up in the deliberative session. I don't know if Nottingham will agree with us, but their big question was, what would we charge for tuition? And I don't think we're prepared to talk about that tonight. But the other thing that we learned, and maybe it gets delayed a year, is that I thought both agreements were expired this year. And I think even though they'd like to get them both done this year, the Dover agreement doesn't expire until 2016. I believe they said that. I thought it was a very good first meeting. We had a couple Maine boys talking to each other. I mean, they played basketball in high school and never met, so different teams.
I think he brought the hammer down, is what happened. I think we were on the floor at the same time, and he just didn't want to remind me how badly he hurt me back there.
So I don't know.
He's about 6'6", as he's standing there today, so.
So Matt and Elizabeth, I don't know what your impressions were.
I was
very
very
glad we
positive.
had the meeting.
Yes, I was very glad to have it. I was very positive. I love bragging about our school, so that gave us a great chance to do that. I mean, I would love to know, again, I talked to Mike about this today, when you bring 10 in, they get absorbed. It's when we add on to it that we need to discuss on that. But I mean, I would love to see it on the warrant, to ask Nottingham if they'd like to come over to our way.
Ask the people in Newmarket
If they would like Nottingham to come.
Sure.
I mean, I guess the only thing I think it's a worthwhile conversation. I was pleased that an overture resulted in that kind of conversation. I think they certainly are watching and waiting and to see what's going to happen here. Obviously, you don't enter yourself into a relationship with someone who's getting ready to send their student somewhere else. Right. So I think, and they're aware, they've paid attention, they're aware of a conversation going on. We were honest about the conversation that we're having, so I think it was an entry level. I could be, I don't know, I guess I don't want to prejudice the conversation, but what I would say, I'm not sure that they would be talking about us in the March timeframe, although they're facing a decision-making process that has its own deadline, so. And the one thing that they did say was, picking up other schools, it will be important for us to satisfy a niche for them. Their kids go to a given number of schools now.
Oyster River?
And Dover, Co-Brown.
Co-Brown, that's the other one.
And they have had inquiries and requests to go to other places, and I don't think they're interested in having kids going to 10 different places, at least not some members of the school board. They would want to consider a justification or a reason why some students might go to Newmarket, some students might go to Sandwood, some students might go anywhere other than where they're already going. So, but I think that we represent, a smaller school with more intimate learning environment, and the qualities that we've already talked about are of benefit. So down the line, there certainly might be.
Is that why they're leaving Dover, or are they talking about leaving Dover? Did anybody ask why?
The drive.
Why they were leaving Dover?
Oh, they're not necessarily leaving Dover.
Or
That's just options, I think.
Oh, okay.
Just pursuing options because they're at a contract renewal moment.
Okay.
With Dover, and it's the right time to just.
They said very specifically to me, and Nottingham would like to be a school district of choice, where kids have choices to go to school. I think if that's the case, the access to Newmarket down 152 is a very different drive than the access to Dover down Route 4. And I mean, it's as a parent, having a 16-year-old learning to drive is a challenge for parents. It's not to mention the kid.
Not there yet, so.
Well, when Dad, can I have the keys? That's a different I think we have an opportunity there. I think we have good access, and
they're not looking for March, which is good, because it gives us some time to figure out
Yeah.
our.
They might be, I mean, I think they're making commitments with Dover for July 1.
no, 2016.
Good,
But they
right.
would like to, I think they'd like to get their votes done this March, so they're not pressed next March, not knowing where, in 3 months, what's happening.
So do you need a motion to continue the talks, and we just basically see what happens in December?
I think if you would like, I will call the superintendent and draft something to respond to them for you to look at next week.
Okay.
And see if it's worthy of us responding to some of their questions. One was tuition, one was how many kids could we take. I think we both agreed that they weren't looking for an exclusive contract, and neither were we.
So if we're going to have a preliminary conversation with Nottingham, I think it may be beneficial for us to have a preliminary conversation with Epping.
It's the other way around.
Well, it just seems a little.
One is about
Bringing revenue in.
bringing revenue in, and the other is about closing a building. Gail, I'm not going to argue that point with you. It is this.
No, I understand that. I'm worried about the optics, that's all. I'm worried about some of the perceptions.
Is Randy investigating tuitioning in? Because I haven't heard him talk about it at all. So it's my understanding that his goal is to discuss tuitioning out, new, add rent out.
Yep.
So that's not, this topic of tuitioning in isn't under review by the JAC.
I'm just trying to bring up some
So
points.
it's sort of outside the scope, that's why.
I'm just trying to bring up some points, that's all. I mean, I'm not.
Should I ask Randy to put this meeting with Nottingham on the schedule so that we've officially advised the advisory committee that?
I think it would be a good idea, yeah.
And I don't have any problem making that call if you want me to.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, if we're looking at options, and if he has contacts and connections as well, and we can.
Well, I don't want to give him any more.
Looking at ways to.
Yeah, because Mike can do that. Why they can focus on their thing, but I think it's nice that if people listening to the JAC would hear what we're doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, we need to
We
have
might
it.
get some feedback from them.
Oh, from Randy?
Yeah.
No, from the JAC, the Joint Advisory Council. Why are you doing this, or what are you doing? We don't know what we're doing. They're looking for choice. We thought we would make an introductory, and just report, not like we're trying to do anything. I think some openness in what we're meeting, I think Gail would.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And then if we get some really terrible feedback, well, we'll bring it back.
Yeah.
And we can go from there. If we get some good feedback, we'll bring that too.
Absolutely.
But that would only be something we'd be able to pursue based on the outcome of the JAC's report, I guess is my thought.
Yeah.
It's not a part of the JAC's report. So I guess those are the
But
things that I
if
wanted to
if
try.
I report that and it's on the agenda as just an update, and we get people at the microphone saying that's a great idea or that's not a good idea, I mean, it just gives the community all that more input, all that more information.
I think if we do it right, it says we're not leaving every stone unturned.
That's right,
And I think if we don't report it, we could get some, and if we report it and get in trouble, well, so be it.
Right.
Get in trouble for telling
Right.
people. I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
I will take care of that with Randy. The goal setting, I was thinking due to the time,
Yeah.
maybe we could move on and go to the draft calendar, if you
Yeah,
don't mind.
that's a good idea.
In the board booklet, we have the first draft of calendar. We're not looking for anything but feedback tonight. Other folks are looking at that. We got today, and I didn't put it in the packet, the first round of state calendars. We will look at that and share that with folks. We pretty much have modeled this year's calendar. And we've pretty much aligned ourselves with the the Seacoast School of Technology, so that we have our vacations aligned and so forth for our 60-some-odd kids that are attending school over there. And
The only question that I've got, and I should flip it over and look at May. Yeah, no. So the only question I have, and now the union just walked out, but I'm curious about a half-day workshop in May on a Friday afternoon. And I appreciate that the calendar has been built, and I think it's a historical thing. I think they've been moving in this direction. The calendar's been built to have teacher workshop days on Fridays in many cases, which is good, I think, for some families, because they take the opportunity to take a day off, get out of Dodge, and do something with a third day. It precludes our teachers doing so, but, that's how it's worked. And I see an April workshop that's a half-day, but that's a Wednesday. I gotta say, by the time you get to 12:30, when the kids are finally cleared out, it's really tough to do much in the way of, much that's productive on a Friday afternoon. When you're that deep into the school year, I wonder even harder if it's a day that's maybe less productive than if you did it midweek.
Okay.
There may be a reason for that. It may have something to do with placements, it may have something to do with crossover or step up, you know what I mean? There might be a lot going on, but I would just ask the question, is there a reason why we want to,
Teachers' workshop so late in the year.
Well, and I understand, again, with placements and stuff, we often see a workshop late, but boy, the later it gets in the school year and the later it gets in the Friday afternoon, the less it feels going to get accomplished.
Are there less workshops in this proposed calendar than last year?
I believe there are more full-day workshops.
Oh, nice, okay.
Are you looking, what is this, November? You're not looking to accept this yet?
No, I just wanted to get it out there, and if somebody, I think, for me, calendars always seem to work better if people have had a chance to read and think about it, and go from there.
All right, correspondence from the Newmarket Community Education Partnership.
Enclosed is a check from the partnership in the amount of $3,900 for the purchase of iPad minis for 5th grade.
Wow.
Hear, hear. Cheers,
Yeah.
and thank you.
I think it's important to
That's
note
awesome.
that this is Tony and Josh Weinstein made this donation for the 5th grade. And I think this is their second donation that they've made
That's great.
to the school, the elementary school, and it's really important that, and hopefully other people can follow through.
Yeah. Is it our policy to accept this
it.
with a motion?
Yes.
You want to do it?
I move to accept this donation from Tony Weinstein and Josh Weinstein for $3,900.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And thank you.
Yeah, thank you, definitely.
All right, we have some first reading policies.
Okay,
Do we want to give an update real quick about the letter from the?
I'm gonna bug out if that's okay. I have to get a C&J at 2:30 tomorrow morning.
Oh, God, go.
So I'm gonna go.
Have a good time.
Thank you, Mary Jane. Be careful.
Good
Do
luck, travel safe.
Enjoy. Do we want to give an update on the New
Well,
Hampshire school board?
yes, I'll be happy to. You may recall that I asked the board to have Barrett Christina draft, read our policies. He's done that. He's got comments marked on them, and the policy committee will be reading those comments very soon, and they will be on the agenda every month, I'm sure. And we were only missing 4 policies that were required by law. And I would want to read the first sentence in number 1. It said, overall here, the Newmarket Policy Manual is in excellent conditions.
Nice.
So we're feeling really good about this, and there's a 3-page report. And we have put in there for tonight 3 policies that are the ones that are missing for the first read. They're in the packet. if somebody has read them and marked them up, we certainly could make some changes. Gail is the leader of the policy thing, and there's no action required tonight. Generally, by policy, we read them once, we think about them, and then we look for an action at the second read. So you would find these in your board booklet, I think, for the first Thursday in December. Only because I heard earlier that we're trying to focus on budgets on that week, so it would be this first and second read.
All right. On the back page now, we are unfortunate, we have some, well, I guess it's fortunate for them, unfortunate for us. We have some retirements. We have Deborah Boatwright, high school computer teacher.
I move to accept Mrs. Boatwright's letter of resignation.
It's a retirement. I'm sorry.
Retirement, sorry.
It's okay. Do I hear a
Second.
second? Okay, any discussion?
Only that my daughter said, "Daddy, I saw the agenda. Why is Mrs. Boatwright resigning?" Because it's under the category of resignation, and she
right,
didn't see
yeah.
the retirement.
Yep.
So there's at least one little girl who will miss that teacher when
Well, I
she's
think,
gone,
yeah.
and I'm sure there are many, many others. So we wish her the best, I'm sure, in her last year next year.
Absolutely. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have Pamela Caswell, high school English teacher.
That's another sad retirement, but again, happy for her, and I move to accept Ms. Caswell's retirement.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And last is dear Miss Nancy Pagnotta,
I move we
sixth grade
accept
social
the,
studies teacher.
I move we accept the letter of retirement from Nancy Pagnotta.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the manifest?
Where'd it go?
Oh, it's hiding here. Somebody want to do that?
You have the purple?
It's down that end. I shuffled
I
it.
move we accept the manifests presented this evening of $767,994.04. 767-994-04.
Your second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks for hanging in there. We're at public comments now.
Hanging in there is the right word.
That's right.
And I respect the fact that you all have full-time lives and give as much time and service to the community in your roles here. David Spiegel, Maple Street. I'll make sure I get that in, Gil.
Thank you. And you're right, everybody knows who you are, but, you
Yeah,
know.
but, okay. For better or for worse, right?
For better, of course.
Thank you. First, I will say that anything I have to say is hopefully received as constructive criticism, if it is at all criticism. I have a couple quick questions. Okay. I would just say, because the meeting took so long, and I'm sure in your history there have been some very long meetings as well, I would encourage you to find ways that you could be more economic in terms of meeting management. I appreciate that the superintendent identified some items that didn't have to be addressed this evening, but your agendas are incredibly lengthy, and I had a couple of quick thoughts. One is there was a long curriculum committee report, report, and perhaps since there is a curriculum committee, the person from the board could summarize an issue or concern or whatever, but it took a fairly long amount of time. And the reason I'm saying this is not just for my benefit as a person who is in the audience, but for your benefit. I mean, I hate to see how much time you put in, because I know it's not limited just to the board meetings. Also, I would suggest you suspend the rules if that's possible, and just combine all three retirement votes in one. I know it, if that's possible. I'm just suggesting that there have to be some ways that the meetings can be shortened. And then finally, And I appreciate vigorous discussion, but some restraint on some parts, because, and I know I'm guilty of this myself sometimes when I'm in conversations, people tend to go off a little bit on tangents that end up making the meeting significantly longer. And again, this is just not for the benefit of the community, but for your benefit, if that's possible. And I know it's not easy as the chair to say that, because then you're sort of discouraging people from speaking their mind on the board. So I'll say it as a community member. I have some confusion as to why the Superintendent Martin presented what he's presented this evening. I don't know if it was presented at the Joint Advisory Committee meeting, if it was just for your own information, but the information at this juncture, I'm wondering what the relevance was, what it was, and some of it was non-specific, because you had to extrapolate the number from what, like multiplying or whatever. And at this juncture, I don't know if it left a lot of people confused and wondering where that all should be applied. I know that later on in the process of considering options, that information will become very relevant. So it just left me wondering why tonight, why the board, and I know the superintendent is doing a good job in trying to get information to you, but it just left me wondering. I guess the word I want to emphasize is respect, and believe me, I address this to myself as much as to anybody else. I want to ask the question to every member of the community: what do we want to teach our children? Do we want to teach our children that it's okay to be passionate about issues, or do we want to teach our children that you need to be open-minded and willing to accept facts and to compromise? Because this whole school issue ultimately boils down to that, and that's the item that one of the items that I'm going to talk about at the meeting on Saturday for Newmarket Common Ground is what do I value, and that's the highest item in this whole school discussion that I value is what do we want to teach our children by our own actions. I listened very carefully to the discussion between you, Gail, and Elizabeth at one point, and I appreciated where you both were coming from. But my feedback is that I think that you created an impression that there is at this point somewhat of a bias, and I believe that that's what generated the response from Elizabeth. And I don't think that was your intention. But I do think you by presenting the issue of what the community could afford, versus, and I don't think you were talking about the same things even. It was just one response to the issue that was presented. And as I've said a few times, perception is reality. I am not one of those people, but there are many people who are not trusting of the process, even though I think the process is unfolding very much as it should. And I think it's important to be careful not to show a bias about something, even though I really understand why you were trying to get that out there. And I'll go back to something I said at a previous school board meeting, which is I think that things should be reserved until the consultant's report is submitted as much as possible. Because the minute somebody hears a piece of it, whether it's in chambers or whether it's watching a portion of Channel 13, at that point they may not have a clear perception of the context, and if they're distrustful and if they have their own bias, I think it adds to the controversy and the hostility that we're trying to minimize. Okay, and I say that as a member of the community, and I know in good faith all of you on the board are trying to minimize that as well. And again, I guess I spoke to that point. I think it's better left to the presentation to the community once the consultants have completed their study. I also want to say what we value, need, and want has to be balanced with what the town, and I'm making the distinction, with what the town, the school system, and members of the community can afford, because there are implications for every decision that is made, not just for the taxpayer in being able to afford to pay higher taxes, but in how much the town can address their own needs going forward if the taxes are already raised, and also how much the school board will then have some flexibility in addressing other needs other than facilities needs. So for that reason, I value very much what you were trying to communicate this evening, Gail.
Thank you.
I support what you're doing with the engineers and the structural analysis. I think it's critical. It adds to the credibility of whatever you do, and any few extra $1,000 that you're spending are more than worthwhile, again, so that people do not have any doubt whatsoever about what's decided on, about the possibility of doing the renovation, if that's an option that's viable or not. I have a couple quick questions. Before I ask those questions, one is, I repeat my point of previous school board meetings. I think it is hurting the process to push this forward to a March ballot. I know there are a lot of people in the community who want that to happen, especially those who have wanted the new school in the past. But I think the process has to unfold in a way that allows you to get through every step. And I think if it's unrealistically addressed so that you get close to the holidays, the community may not be as available or have the same interest. And I would encourage you to rethink the schedule, even if that requires you to take some heat from people in the community who want you to be there for a March warrant article. I also am not sure how you resolved the issue of 6 through 12 this evening. Maybe I was just lost my attention span, but with great admiration, Gail, what you were trying to do before the school board this evening was not to do anything other than show courtesy to the school board, that because it doesn't appear that 6 through 12 is as likely to be available as an option, that you want the consultants to be, and the advisory committee to be able to consider just 9 through 12, and maybe it's 10 through 12. We don't even know at this point. And obviously, then what would the cost be of renovating an existing building or making some addition to it? Because obviously then if you have a smaller amount of student population in that building, there may be less building required, okay? Including, in my mind, tearing down the oldest part maybe or whatever. So I hope that the council realizes that you're not, originally your desire was to make sure 6 through 12, for whatever reasons you had, wanting the continuity, whatever the reasons may be. But at this point, I think that Gail has a responsibility to ask you, and has shown the courtesy to the school board, to just allow that process to unfold. It is not going to be without consideration of the cost of renovating or adding on to the building. I don't want to call it anything at that point. It's just, I mean, it was the most practical return to the school board to ask for permission to do that. And I very much appreciate you doing that, Gail. And I do not think that that defines an agenda or anything of the kind. I just think it's a appropriate request of the school board. And so I was a little, what did you decide?
Well, what we decided is that, you know, Randy Bell and the Joint Advisory Committee, if I'm getting it correct, will continue to look at options for tuitioning out, and if that only remains the possibility of 9 through 12, then I need to come back to the board and report, and we need to have a serious conversation about what that might look like.
Thank you. I guess the final comment I want to make is that, well, there's two comments, but one has nothing to do with the other. If the consultant's work and the work of the advisory council and eventually the work of the school board is comprehensive, transparent, unbiased, and factual, that's the only thing the community can ask of you, okay? And up to this point, I believe it is. I want to give you a support because you're easy targets. The last thing is that just a small inconsequential item, I would hope that you would invite Josh and Tony to the next board meeting to give them some public acknowledgement You know, if people are watching on Channel 13 or who are here, because we acknowledge the kids when they do something special, and I think that is a very important recognition that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other public comments? No? Thanks for hanging in there with us. All right, seeing none.
One thing.
Okay.
I was so excited about the gene that you guys went so fast through the minutes. There's a change in the minutes on October 23rd, 2 changes. On page 1, under the second paragraph under myself, in the middle of the paragraph, it says we have included a 1% increase for salaried staff. That should be classified staff. So I just want to clarify that. And then on the second page, just about the last sentence, where I'm bolded again, Christine Bloom said that we found substitutes for paraprofessionals at the elementary school, but not at the junior, senior high school. You flipped them.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. And the only other comment I'd make on the minutes is you might want to add the administrative staff who were present that night.
Oh, thank you. That's a good
Because
idea.
they were there, so.
Okay.
And then one more thing. Do you guys want, on the 13th, we're going to have Chris and Sean come to the meeting. Do you want Jason as well? Because we do talk about budget, technology. So I wanted to know what your expectations were for Jean and Jason. Pat's budget is very small, but I assume she would come for, I just want to know what you're expecting so that I can relay it to my.
I thought it was clear that you wanted Sean to come and then Chris to come.
Yeah, and then I think maybe what we could do at the next meeting is have Pat come.
Well, that's what I'm asking. So Chris
Yes.
and Sean for the 13th, but
Yes.
what about the 18th? Are you expecting Jean and Pat because it's going to be SAU?
Well, here's because their budgets are small, I'm assuming, right? We have that.
Well, not Jean's, though.
Oh, no, she has to come. We have that first meeting, which is on the
13th.
13th, right?
That's Chris
We
and
have-
Sean.
Yes.
right. The next meeting, I would have Jean there for a good portion of that,
Oh.
and then I would invite the smaller one, Jason, right? At the end.
Jean and Jason on the 20th?
Jason,
Well,
goes
Jason-
through all pieces, so that's the hard
Yeah,
part with
But
technology.
we can
so-
always come back to him on that day instead of making him wait, and if we don't get to him on the 13th, then he's just sitting there.
So we'll have Jean and Jason on the 18th.
The 2 J's.
Okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to make sure before I,
Yeah,
Oh,
'cause
on the
they-
18th,
on the
okay.
18th, it would be Jean and Jason and Pat,
And then on the 20th, can all of them show up? Because,
if that's what you wish, that's why I'm
and
asking.
any final questions before we
Yeah.
then
That's a
vote?
good idea.
Yeah, that
That's
is
a
a
good
good
Okay.
idea.
Right, because you'll have a final rough draft for us, right, on that day?
Well, we'll be voting on it
Yeah.
on that day, so yeah,
Yeah, so
they'll all
hopefully
be
we'll get it
present.
before then, right, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
You got
thank
some work to do.
Thank you for asking all of that. All right, it looks like we have reason for non-public, it's really late, and it won't take very long, but should we perhaps table it?
Well, you gotta,
Well, I'm just suggesting,
Maybe we go home.
Yeah.
can we make a motion to table it, and then we can,
We don't have
I
to
think
make a
it's-
motion to table a non-public if we don't know what the non-public is, so if you need it, you need it, if you don't. I know it's late, but
I think-
if you need a non-public, we should take.
No, we're gonna follow procedure.
Yeah.
There
Okay.
has to be a vote, there has to be a certified vote.
it will only take 5 minutes.
Make a motion, we go into non-public session under 91A
Hold on a second.
3,
oh, you guys, I gotta get it.
2A and C.
You left your book up here, your packet right here, is that what you're looking for?
Thank you.
Okay, the second for this?
Second.
Any discussions?
It's roll call.
Okay. Thank you, David.
You don't need me, right?
Wentworth, DeRosa Wentworth,
Aye.
Nathan
Lummy.
Lummy.
Aye.
Elizabeth McKinney,
Aye.
Matt Evangelista.
Aye.
Thank you.
Are we off air?